Ah, there we go. We are back. Another week has passed, and that's right. It's time for Freaky Friday. Oh, and what a Freaky Friday this is going to be. Earlier on today, when I was getting set up for this, I thought it might just be yours truly here, and I'll be speaking to Scott in just a moment as to why that was. And then earlier on, a couple of hours ago, got talking with Jason, our good friend that you've heard me talk about before. He's been on the show a number of times. And I threw it out there. I said, Jason, how do you fancy coming hanging out? He said, yeah, no probs. And then after that, Joe Joseph got in touch as well. Joe Joseph will be here as the show progresses today. So not one, not two, not three, but four horsemen of Freaky Friday. Ah, indeed. Gentlemen, Scotty Lopez, you first, brother. I am so glad you're here. And talk to me about what's been going on, man. Never a dull moment for you, Scott.
Yeah, just had a little bit of a health scare yesterday with my mom, and she went to the hospital with some stomach pain, and we didn't know what was going on, and thought maybe could be like her appendix or her gallbladder or something like that. But turns out she had really severe ulcers in her stomach, and her stomach was inflamed. So, yeah, at first I was wondering, oh man, are they gonna have to do like surgery to remove her appendix or her gallbladder or something like that, And luckily it wasn't that severe, but I mean, ulcers are pretty bad. I mean, that's not a fun thing to deal with, and so luckily they gave her something to coat her stomach, and so it can start healing and stuff. So, yeah, that's what's been going on with me. But like I said, luckily it wasn't as bad as we initially thought. So,
Well, I must admit, Scott, you had me kind of freaked out because my mum, she has problems with her gallbladder, and when you told me it was that, I absolutely had no expectation on you being here today at all, and
yeah.
I was just quite grateful when you'd even just have heard from you today to make sure your mum's okay. That would have been absolutely fine, but the fact you're here is a double bonus, and a big shout out to your mum. I know she's somebody that really enjoys the show. She's one of the main reasons, along with my mum, yeah, we're mummies, boys, deal with it, that we went back to going full woo. Because over the years we do this, Scott, sometimes we drift back into the politics. Sometimes there's a 3D reality story that captures our attention, and it can be so big that we obviously change our point of attention, but I don't know about you, man. It's giving a breath of fresh air into Freaky Friday, though.
Yeah, it was both of our moms that sort of nudged us back into getting back into the roots of Freaky Friday, the woo, if you will,
To make Freaky Wookie again?
Yeah.
Make
Yeah,
Fridays freaky again.
Yeah, make Fridays freaky again. So yeah, another week is upon us, and it's never a dull moment here at Casa de Lopez. So,
Well, Scott, I think the 5 minutes of conversation we had with this handsome, bald gentleman that we have with us here today, and I'm envious on two counts: the baldness and the fact he's a good-looking gentleman. But
I must say, he rocks the baldness a lot better than I do. I need to trim mine up. I need to step up my bald game.
Yeah, dude, if I was to go fully bald, I look like I'm rocking some look from a World War II propaganda film or something. It ain't good, it ain't healthy when somebody this skinny goes bald. And I'm planning the Ragnar. I'm going to just shave underneath and keep the top and tie it back and go crazy. But we do have a third member of the Woo crew here right now. He's Jason Meritt. Now, he's also got his own YouTube channel. It's called First Paranormal. And he's well on his way, in my opinion, to becoming the UK's first paranormal show. And by that, I mean #1. Now, he's also somebody that hangs out in our Discord server, and we've got to know him really well over the months. And he's been a really great addition to not only the chat room, but when he's appeared on the show as well. Not only that, in recent times, his YouTube channel, he is pumping out content, he's getting into making videos, and all of this while he's still waiting for his new laptop to arrive. I can only imagine what content awaits us from our good friend Jason. First, Paranormal. How you doing, man?
Hi, Kev. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you here, and I know you've been working quite tirelessly on a UFO video, so I really do appreciate the fact that you've taken time out here to join us today on the show, man. I think we're going to have a blast, and you're just full of woo. You're like an encyclopedia of woo. You're perfect for a Freaky Friday, Jace.
Thank you, Kev. Yeah, I have been doing quite a lot of work in my local area, and finding out a lot more than I knew. So yeah, it's been good.
And Scotty, this is the guy that was talking about the Dartmoor Sphinx, and like nobody knew about it, kind of thing. Weird, right? Weird.
That is strange. Like, I mean, how can you have a location like that and then like nobody knows?
Exactly. But before we get too far off track, right? I think tonight we are going to introduce to you something that is going to get a lot of airtime. It's going to appear in a lot of print. There's going to be a lot of images. There's going to be a lot of talk around it. And I think we're on the cusp. In fact, we may already be into the first stages of the next big Tulpa coming our way. Now, before I get into that, let me do what we do on Freaky Friday, and we head on over to the Wookiee Cave at tfrlive.com, and I give all of these intrepid Wookiees a shout out. Yes, indeed. And Scott will attest to the fact we have got an absolutely cracking, a smorgasbord of a soundboard now, Scott.
Yes, I am quite impressed with the work you've been doing on the soundboard front. It's quite the cornucopia of sounds.
Oh, the audience, they don't know the half of it, Scott. They don't know the half of it. But we'll get into that. And I'll get into the Wookiee Cave. So, first up, there's some really strange little Scotsman. He's called Kev Baker. I'm his brother, Dave. And then we've got Sophia the robot. Now, she's a friendly little chatbot. She's not intent to take over the world. She isn't hooked up to Skyborg that I was talking about last night. Yeah, check that one out, Scott. Forget Skynet. Skyborg is taking over the AI for the US Air Force. Another show altogether. Back to the Wookiee Cave. We've got Lucky in there, one of our hosts on the network. Then we have Bam, Cold Brews, Robofish. Next week, probably, Robo everything else, so why not Robofish? We've got Douchelander, Gemini, Epic Journey, man. I hope it was a nice journey as well. We've got CJ Rich, AJ Mac, DJ Caveman. Couple of cracking calls from DJ Caveman in recent times. Buzz Achino. Wow. Buzz, at one point I thought you were a Mandela effect. Some people thought you existed. Other people, nah. I remembered though, and it's great to see you back, man. We got Pollination in there, another caller from last night. Lurens and all one. So buckle up, folks, because we're hitting full woo early today. And I want to thank our good friend, Just a Guy, Just Be Happy. He sent me something this morning that really, it set the tone for Freaky Friday. And it got me thinking about Slenderman. Now, Slenderman, I think we need to lay out a little bit of the history here. Maybe some people need caught up on this. I like to think we've always got new people coming to the party, Scott. And if we come over here and look at this, well, Slenderman is a fictional supernatural character that originated as a creepypasta internet meme created by Something Awful forums user Eric Knudsen, also known as Victor Surge. Far cooler name, Victor Surge, right? And that was in 2009. Now, he is depicted as a thin, unnaturally tall humanoid with a featureless face, or a featureless head and face, and he's also wearing a black suit. Now, stories of this Slender Man commonly feature him stalking, abducting, and traumatizing people, especially youngsters. And the Slender Man is not confined to a single narrative, but appears in many disparate works of fiction, totally composed online. And this Slender Man, talk about taking on a life of its own. And when you get something from fiction, in this example, a story from Creepypasta, it was a competition. People had to draw what they thought the Slender Man looked like. It started accelerating, more and more people talking about it. It got bigger. It got bigger. And eventually, and unfortunately, it all kind of came to a head when Slender Man had a really adverse effect in the real world. Because one young girl almost lost her life in the real world at the hands of two of her classmates, all inspired by and told to act by Slender Man. Now, how can something from the internet then make its way into the real world where even people have reported seeing this thing? And like I say, results in a crime where there's really nasty stuff going on. How can that be? And that is where you have to start to open your mind to something called tulpamancy, right, Scotty? And this was my real first introduction into the tulpamancy, the Slender Man.
Yeah, I never really, I never really looked into tulpamancy or knew much about it until we actually started talking about it here on Freaky Friday. When I think it was when we really first kind of started talking about the Slender Man stuff and some of the, kind of the explanations for maybe some of the cryptids as well.
Yeah.
When we're discussing some of that, and that kind of opened my mind, basically made me look at things from a completely different perspective, because I was never looking at things from the perspective of tulpamancy. And then I'm like, oh wow, if you have a bunch of people focusing on a certain, I guess you could say, entity, or focusing on the same thing, can you really manifest it in our reality? And I was like, wow, that kind of blew my mind, thinking about it from that perspective. But then you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess it does make sense, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, I think, last Friday, right? Like, when people are writing fiction, when people are coming up with these ideas, are they really just coming up with these ideas, or are they pulling this information from somewhere else, right? And so this guy may have been writing, thinking up the Slender Man. Was he really thinking up the Slender Man, or was the Slender Man coming to him? Was that information, was that entity coming to, like, downloading itself into his mind, and then he put it out there on the internet for everybody to see? And maybe he wasn't doing it on purpose, right? Maybe he really thought he was having an original creative thought in his mind to write this story out about the Slender Man. But where was that information originally coming from?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Was he actually channeling the entity? Was was Slender Man somehow the information being downloaded into his mind, or was it channeling through him, and as a way to basically enter our reality, if you will?
Very good point. Very good point. And Jason, I'll get your take on Slender Man, the whole thing around it. I mean, what's your take on the Slender Man? Before we really take this on and show people what the next Slender Man might be.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, Kev, this creeps me out, Slender Man. It just reminds me of that shadow that I saw when I was younger. So to me, it's like really real. But yeah, I always thought along the lines of it was like a group collective and we fought it into existence. But I like what Scotty just said, because that makes total sense that this being could have made him do it and then manifest, and then he's just getting more and more power as more and more people are looking at it.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and there's so much art that surrounds this Slenderman. And like we say, we always talk on the show about intent, and we need to be careful for what thoughts we have. And Richard Allen Miller came on and says men really need to take responsibility for our thoughts because we don't realize what we're doing, what we're creating. And the whole tulpamancy, it's a colloquial term for the practice of creating or interacting with tulpas, servitors, or other mental constructs, as well as for acts of auto-hallucinatory training. Now, the main act of interaction with mental constructs is referred to as forcing, which commonly is a meditation-style activity, but can take on many different forms in order to fulfill purposes. And a practitioner of tulpamancy is called a tulpamancer. Now, or in my opinion, I almost spoke for the group there and I can't do that. But today, just a guy sent me something that stopped me dead. I'm like that, whoa, hang on a minute. And luckily he had sent me 2 different stories. And what I'm about to show you now, even at running the risk of more consciousness being put into this entity, it's almost like a kind of, by showing you, I'm almost helping it come into reality. But let's hope not. Are you ready? Because the next big tulpa, the next big thing, and I hate to say it because of the way that the whole Slenderman ended up with people in court and people doing time, somebody almost losing their life. But folks, the next one is SIRENHEAD. Now, I will post a picture over in the TFR chat room right now of what SIRENHEAD looks like. But on first glance, I don't like the look of this thing one iota. I really, really don't. I'm going to post a picture in the TFR chat room now. But SIRENHEAD. And it says, SIRENHEAD, the internet's newest obsession, is here. And it's here to haunt your dreams. So already, that they've put that suggestion out there that you're going to start seeing some absolutely Nephilim-sized character that has a neck and 2 loudspeaker type things for a head. It's not comfortable. It looks like something out of the Upside Down from Stranger Things. And I'm only going to do a couple of paragraphs and then get the guy's thoughts on this, because it says, move over, Slenderman. There's a new cryptid in town. And while the slender, faceless figure that follows you in foggy woods previously captivated the internet, SIRENHEAD is the internet's newest obsession, infiltrating its way into video games and even TikTok. But who or what is SIRENHEAD, and is it real? And before we go any further, let me come to you first then, Scotty. What do you think, man?
It reminds me of like something out of Silent Hill. You know, the game Silent Hill.
Fallout had something similar to it as well when I was looking for art today.
Yeah, like just these weird sort of weird characters. Like was it Silent Hill had Pyramid Head? He was the main bad dude. You know, so you've got SIRENHEAD now. Yeah, this is bizarre. This is some crazy stuff.
What do you make of it? We'll get Jason's take on it here. What do you think, Jason? Man, is this gonna make its way into your nightmares? You're like me. I mean, you love all this stuff, but that thing there, that's terrifying, right?
Yeah. All I'm thinking is some kind of Illuminati music video. I'll be interested to see if this comes into a music video.
Do you reckon it could do like some kind of duet with like Billie Eilish or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Kev. She's riding along on its shoulder singing or something like that.
Kev, I think I figured it out. I think I know what's going on. I think we know the source of the trumpet sounds.
Oh, holy shimoly. It's SIRENHEAD. You're right, dude. You are
SIRENHEAD.
right. Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Scott solves it. He is our Mulder. I tell you, dude, you're like a cross between, like, I don't know, Mulder and Zordon.
Yeah.
Scott Lopez.
I've had many people say that I remind them of Zardon from yeah, see, there we go. It's my
There's
background.
definitely
I
a
like it.
Zordon going on there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll wear the Zardon badge with honor.
So, what do you think, Jason? Am I kind of like putting two and two together and coming up with woo? Or do you think when you've got computer games that are putting this in there, you've got the attention then of both young and old? I play games as well. You've got it turning up now in TikTok videos. That TikTok, I don't have a clue what TikTok is, but I know everyone talks about it and uses it. If it's in there, a lot of people looking at it. Now you've got the internet told this is going to be the next big thing. You see where my fears are coming from, man.
Yeah, I agree, Kev. It'd be interesting to see where this goes, and like in about a year's time, I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing some stories about this and what's going on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that might seem a bit outrageous what Jason's just said there, but what if I was to tell you there is a subculture here online? Oh, there's many subcultures online, but this one, it's probably gonna take Freaky Friday to places where it's never been before. Now, this, folks, this is gonna blow your mind. When I came across this today, I had to like rub my eyes and go, surely it can't be so, but it is. Let me introduce you to the weird and wacky world of the Tulpamancers. Now, this is 2014. It comes from Vice. And I just want you to listen to this just for a moment, okay? Listen to what it says about Tulpamancers. Kistune was a mercurial orb hovering above a marble obelisk. Maciej looked at her. "What do you want to be?" he asked. The orb vanished. Then Maciej heard the pad of feet on grass. He whirled around, and there she was, naked. With large fox ears and a bristly tail. She looked at him with large, primitive eyes. So when Maciej opened up his eyes, he was lying on his bed in Wrocław in Poland. Now outside it was a grey day. He jumped up, sat in front of his laptop, and got in touch with me. "I did it! She's here!" he typed into Skype. "Can I speak to her?" I replied. So Maciej, he paused and listened internally. In between his thoughts came a sweet little tone. It seemed to move his fingers automatically. "Hi, I'm Kistune, or Kitsune, and I'm a Tulpa." Tulpas are sentient beings imagined into existence using meditation-style exercises, and their creators, known as Tulpamancers, form the internet's new subculture, meeting online at, get this, tulpa.info and the subreddit r/tulpas. Scott Lopez, did you have any idea that we've been missing out on this crazy corner of the internet and tulpamancy for like 6 years? How didn't we know?
This is very similar. I think this has echoes and shades of the whole mental shifting thing that I was talking
let's
about.
let's not tell demons out there, right, that there's actually like squadrons of people around the world who are sitting ready with their minds open, waiting to be a conduit. You know, just offering themselves up as a host to some unholy spirits. I tell you, man, we're in big trouble. Big trouble.
This is like taking your imaginary friend to the next level. You know what I mean? It really, really is. And I mean, when people, like when children say they have an imaginary friend, is it really imaginary? That's the other question as well. Um, because we know that children are more.
Oh, we've got a super. We've got a super. Sorry, Scott.
Tulpas are legit. SIRENHEAD is as creepy as a shadow man. PPP.
Yeah, Jason would absolutely concur with the Shadow Man part. But I'll get you, Scott, and then we're just going to break in a moment, actually. What we're going to do is we'll go to the break now. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get into more of this tulpamancy. We've got UFOs. We've got ancient mysteries. We've got so much more woo. It would even scare the Siren Head. Yes, indeed. There we go, and we are still on the Uber Tubers. Guys, quick segment there. Look at Jason looking... Jason, I'm liking this. I don't know whether I'm envious of the hairdo there or the lack of hair or whether I'm actually getting tempted to try and rock it. But I know I can't rock it.
Well, I lasted 2 days in lockdown and cut my hair, so...
Yeah. Scott, I mean, nature took care of Scotties. It kind of keeps it kind of ventilated on top, Scott, right?
Yeah, and nature has run its course on my hair, and then I have my mother kind of finish the job with some shears.
Absolutely. Now, before I forget, I'm going to be on tomorrow on the YouTube channel here during the day in the UK. Now, I haven't got the time exact yet because you know how I roll. I take one day at a time. If I start looking too far forward, even a day, oh, it all goes horribly wrong. Trust me, I live this experience. I know. So tomorrow, after Freaky Friday, all Kev's attention goes on Down Under, the Dreamland, because we're going to have Jess, Mammoth Hunter, here as my co-host, and we're going to be welcoming 2 original people from Australia. Yes, I can't wait to get into this. And Scotty, Jason, this is going to be epic because, we're talking about information that maybe a lot of people have never heard before. And I'm quite honoured that we're going to be doing this on KBS. And because of Australia, and sorry to trigger people, we live on a globe. Time zones, they're a problem, right? So instead of me thinking of myself and the American audience, we're going down under. Let's think of Australia. So I'm going to be on daytime, early in America, but prime time in Australia. To all of my, and you know how much I love the Australians, Scott. You know it.
Yes. Man, it ought to be a fantastic show. Anything from the Aboriginal culture, I think is like very important information, and it's information that I don't think gets the attention that it deserves. And so I'm glad that you're having these guests on, and that we'll be able to get into, like you said, a lot of
in the chat room there, Luna, Mammoth, and Donnie. That's our 3 people for tomorrow, Scott. Yep. Attracts the best of people here. Yep.
Yes. But yeah, but I think that the information that they have is very key information. It's just something that's been overlooked, and I think a lot of that also has to do with the way that the Aboriginals have been treated in Australia, over the years, and just not a lot of attention has been paid to them, and not much that they haven't garnered the respect that they deserve, as far as their history and their culture and a lot of the stuff that they talk about, and so yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's cool that you're going to have them on, and we'll get an interesting.
Get this, Scott, before we go back. Yesterday, talking about ancient kangaroos that were 2.5 meters tall, man. 2.5 meter tall kangaroos. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Here we go.
That's crazy.
Ah, yes. Oh, one, two, three Wookiees, one of which is Spooky Andy.
I was about to say, you know, okay. It was interesting enough that our two Wookiees have you know, brown chicken, brown cowed, and got a little you know, DNA spliced, and then I don't want to know what happened. I don't want to know how Andy got in there.
No, it's far too early to be talking about that kind of thing, Scott. It wasn't pretty. That's all I can tell you. But it's not just me and Scotty here. We have got our very own paranormal researcher. I claim him as our own. I don't know why. It's a bit selfish of me, but he's his own man. And he's got his own YouTube channel. It's called First Paranormal. That's the number 1, ST Paranormal. Search for channels. He's got a picture of headstones in a graveyard. And he was doing paranormal investigations. Obviously, something got in the way of that. But I'm glad you've turned your hand to these little videos. And we're going to get back into the whole kind of siren head in a moment. But how are you enjoying doing the kind of 10-minute woo updates? I really enjoy it. And, you know, that kind of format, 10 minutes, that's what people are looking for, man. They don't want something that goes on like for 3 hours. Oh, wait, we're doing a 3-hour show. No, but... You know what I'm saying? How are you enjoying it, dude?
Yeah, I really am, actually. The first one took me about a week to go because I had to learn how to do it, and then trying to find free sound effects and all that rabbit hole, as you probably know yourself. And then, yeah, I got a bit quicker and it's got a bit easier. And now I'm starting to do one every 3 or 4 days now. So the reason I picked the area that I live near, so I thought I'd do all the legends, and they turned out to be better than I thought. I knew some of them, and hopefully we'll get time to go over some of them tonight.
Oh, we will. Oh, we will. And Scott, he's even done a video on the hairy hands, man. The hairy hands. Probably one of my favourite stories from recent years.
Yeah, what was it? Devon?
Yeah.
Is that the name of the place? Yeah, the hairy hands of Devon. And man, that was wild. That was some wild stuff. It definitely is. That is one of the more...
There's too much there, Scott, for it just to be like, you know, somebody drunk one night and pushed off their bike or something. It's like too many things.
That is one of the more bizarre sort of paranormal stories that I've heard. It's just like, wow.
Well, I would put that up against my Neffel ruse from last night. Yes, I was talking about the Neffel ruse, the 2.5 meter tall ancient kangaroos living at a time, Scott, when they were also saying there was car-sized lizards kicking around, man. Dang.
Yeah, that does not surprise
We've
me at all.
We've seen kangaroos fighting, though. I already would struggle against an average-sized kangaroo. Imagine me up against one of those big ones, man. It would look at me and just go, no, I'm not even fighting you. Imagine a kangaroo turning down for a fight.
Have you ever seen the kangaroo that Aussie Man uses for his little... The one that's like the kangaroo looks... Yeah, he looks all jacked, you know.
Have you never seen it like working out with Joe Rogan and the rest of the MMA fighters? Either have I, but one of these days, because it looks like it should be. You know?
Yeah.
Only in Australia, Scott, can they make like wildlife that looks like it's ready to fight. Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, look, the atmosphere and the Earth was much different a long time ago, and things were just huge. I mean, you had dragonflies with...
Scott's the place where bunyips come from. Come on, man.
Yeah, you had like dragonflies with like 2-foot wingspans, and just everything was massive. Everything was on a massive scale. So that's just how it was.
It made murder hornets look like domesticated animals. It did.
I would not want to see no wasp and hornet that existed back then.
No, it'd be like a jumbo jet, man. That's what we're talking about here, right? Big time. It's all right though. The kangaroo would just punch out the air, probably not a problem to Neffel ruse. But before we get too distracted by the madness that is Freaky Friday, we're talking about SIRENHEAD, and SIRENHEAD is this big bad boy right here. And I've got the breakdown on SIRENHEAD. Not that we need it, but it says here, speakers constantly pump out strange music, and I think we can add in Scott's trumpet sounds as well. Odd snippets of conversation, and angrily shouted words and numbers. When it's asleep, it plays white noise. It's around 40 foot tall, the size of a telephone pole. The abdomen and chest show wires pressed against the skin, and they rise when it's agitated. The skin looks rusty metal, but is actually dried and mummified skin. Doesn't get much better as I go down here, Jason, right?
I know.
So it goes on to say, will remain motionless while hunting, sometimes for days at a time. Arms are as long as the length of its body, big reach like a ribbon. Most frequently seen in rural town areas and in heavy wooded areas. You know, we need an app if we ever come into contact with a siren head. I want to know if I'm coming like close to people that's ever known this thing. I'm just saying. It says, has been seen with different head arrangements. Well, obviously, it's woke. You know, it identifies as many a tulpa, though it's unclear whether those are subspecies or now. See, they're leaving the door open for it to take many forms. They're basically telling your subconscious, make up any gruesome head you can think of. Just make it horrible. That's what they're saying, isn't it? You know? Telling you, man. The head will rotate on its neck as it broadcasts, much like an owl looking for its prey. Oh, a swivel head. But even better, Scotty.
I mean, it could have a megaphone. It could have a loudspeaker. It could have a tornado siren. You know, there are many different arrangements of speakers. You know, it might feel a little more, you know, urban. You know, it could have those subwoofers, maybe. Who knows?
Build it up a little bit.
Oh. We could have it broadcasting KBS.
Yeah,
we could. It's highly skilled predator using deception and subterfuge to confuse and disorientate prey. It is unclear if or how it gains nourishment from the things that it attacks. And it's got a really scary looking mouth. I mean, listen, folks, you might think, well, this is just something that exists only on the internet. And that's exactly where Slenderman existed. And myself, Scott, and I'll bring Jason in here as well. I mean, me and Scott talk about it all the time. We've already mentioned it. You know, the fact that you can think things into existence. It's the way as well when somebody buys a new car. You know, you've never seen that car before, but then you only ever see that car, right? It almost draws it towards you. Were they always there, or are you only seeing it now? It's that kind of thing, right? And when you've got this amount of people looking at something like this, I think it's relevant. And when it comes to paranormal investigations, and I'll get Jason's thoughts in a moment, I'll come to you first, Scott. I mean, it's got to be discussed how much of a role paranormal investigators play in the alleged kind of paranormal activity that they capture. I mean, how much of that is subconsciously being created? And I'm not saying they're all going about faking it, but that energy, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. No. It's not saying that they're faking it. It's if they're going in with the intent of seeing something, then maybe they manifest that when they go there. You know what I mean? Maybe they actually do. You know, they're experiencing a paranormal event, right? It's not to say that it's not legit. It's basically saying maybe that thing didn't exist in that place until they showed up and they were looking for this thing, or they already have this kind of intent or preconceived idea of what they're looking for, so they manifest it at that location. And that's kind of an interesting thing about maybe some of these like haunted locations, right? Did the activity there kind of like snowball? Did somebody maybe say, oh, well, there's something in this location, and then everybody goes there expecting to see whatever, like, for example, oh, there's this lady in white that's seen in this building, that's seen in this house. Well, everybody's going to go there expecting to see a lady in white, right? So when they go there, they're, even if they're not even thinking about it, subconsciously they're putting out that intent of, well, I want to see a lady in white, and maybe they actually manifest this lady in white, and it really does become a paranormal experience. Maybe multiple people will see the same thing, but it's all because they're focused on that, or whatever. So it's a very, I would say, like, gray area. Do these things exist in these locations already? I think it's possible. Yeah. I think that um, a traumatic event or something that imprints the spiritual or emotional energy of something into a location, that's definitely a thing. But then you also have to wonder if some of these people are manifesting some of this as well. I don't know. It's just a kind of a gray area that I don't think we really have an explanation for right now.
What do you think then, Jason? And I mean, I make no kind of strange, or I don't hide the fact. I love your work. I love the way you go about it. You're a level-headed guy. You're logical as well. And that's why I think you'll be quite open to this conversation. I mean, how much do you think people play into, say, a Ouija board? The glass moving, or the table tipping, or some of the things you've experienced. What's your take on it, man?
Yeah, I agree about the glass spinning, because the last one I did at the tunnels, we had really good glass spinning. But is that us creating the energy and moving it, or which is still a phenomenon in itself, or is it an actual spirit, or is it something completely different? Also, to go on from what Scott said, I'd add, are the hauntings happening while we're not there at the moment? Do you get what I mean? Are these places still haunted while we're all still at home, and are they happening?
Isn't it interesting how people at home have been picking up on what they call new paranormal activity, things they hadn't noticed before? Now, there's two ways you can look at that. Were they out working and too busy to notice it in the first place, and it's always been there? Or are they at home? Is there something new there, or is it their energy? A lot of people stressed, whether we admit it or not. Times are different. A lot of uncertainty that can lead to even not express itself as stress, but we can still be internally stressed, emotionally drained, That might. What's your take? Do you think it's like everything's playing into, it's a piece of everything, really?
Yeah, I agree, Kev. I think with all that energy that's happening, and also, can you imagine that some households are not as lucky as other households, and they might have not so nice people at home? How much dark energy is being built, and how much people are struggling, and like as a whole collective, as a planet at the moment, we build in a negative energy. But then again, you can see the good things, like you can see families walking for the first time together, and people are more together, neighbours. So it works both ways, I suppose. But yeah, I do think there is something in that energy and why it's happening.
Yeah, I think that, like, yeah, it's kind of like what Kev said. There's like a lot of people that maybe are out of work, and so they're home more often now, and maybe they're starting to notice some of the stuff that might have been going on in their house. Um, they just notice it more, or maybe people have a lot of idle time on their hands too, and so they let their minds kind of wander, run wild, right? And then I guess this goes back to the Tulpa thing, or kind of manifesting stuff as well. So maybe there was some paranormal activity that might not have existed that maybe now exists, because you have somebody that's just sitting at home kind of thinking about these things a little more often. So yeah, I agree. I think it goes both ways as well. I mean, like you said, a lot of people are stressed. A lot of people out of work and stuff like that. And even if a lot of people don't necessarily think that they're stressed, on a subconscious level, people are stressed.
Yeah.
It's a it's a different situation we're going through right now, and there's a lot of unknowns, and when there's unknowns, people worry, and even if they don't really think that they're worrying about it, they really are. So there is that energy and that vibe is out there as well. And we talk about entities and stuff like that that tend to feed off of negative feelings and kind of that lower vibration frequency. And this is kind of a ripe environment for anything like that to manifest itself as well. So I just think there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and you really can't pin it all on one particular thing. It's a soup of woo, if you will, and there's a lot of ingredients that are thrown into that soup.
Oh, you better believe it, brother. There truly is. And, whether we see the siren man or the siren head making its way into, real life, maybe people being influenced by it, people saying that they've been contacted by it, like the Tulpa mancers we were looking at there, that they claim they're channeling things. Now, I'm not somebody that looks upon all channeling as demonic entities and bad stuff. Everything's good and bad. There's dark and there's light, and I'm sure there's positive things to be channeled as well. But it's like anything else. It's like Ouija boards or anything else. You're inviting something in, you better be real careful, dude, because you can't guarantee what you're gonna get, right?
Yeah, you can't half-ass it. You can't go in and
no assless chaps on this one, Scott.
No, and it's definitely like something that you've got to know what you're doing if you're going to engage in this kind of stuff. And I'm of the belief of you probably shouldn't really be tinkering with it in general, but if you're going to, you really, really, really better have done your research and know what you're doing, right? It's not like it's like having somebody design a building who really doesn't know how to build a building, and yeah, they might have the building up, but eventually that building's going to fall down because they didn't have the knowledge and the real know-how on how to do it.
Because you need a mason to do it. Scott. You need to get the masons in there,
Yes, see, exactly. You need it.
Yes, the masons and all that. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll be starting a bajillion conspiracies now, but that's okay. That's okay. And Jason, when you're out on investigations, then, what happens typically when, say, there's going to be the Ouija board? I mean, how's it approached? Are you happy? Because I know you're somebody that thinks about these kind of things. You spoke to Bill.
Yeah.
What is it done safely, in your opinion?
With the ones we've been going to, have been done really well, and they ask you if you want to do them, and I've pretty much turned them all down, except for the last time when I had a go. Yeah, they're done really safely. They make us say goodbye and break the chains, and if people don't feel comfortable.
Oh, Polly, thank you.
Wooton soup. Get your Wooton soup here. PPP.
Oh, I like it. Yes, Wooton soup. Yes. I'll have 2 bowls of that, please. But yeah, so it's done safely then. I'm glad that they get people's permission. Just walking into a part of the investigation and they're all set up there doing a table, that would kind of freak me out a little bit. It's good that it's at least consensual. Yeah,
it's really important. And I always tell people I'm with, they ask why I don't do it normally, and I always say it's best just not mess around. I haven't got a problem filming you do it if you want to make the glass fall off the table. I'm more than happy.
Yeah, it's I remember doing them when I was in college. I also remember when I was younger, my mum and her friends all doing them, and I had no idea at the time what we were dabbling with, obviously, but you come to learn. And luckily, I can say, hey, we came out unscathed, but you go opening portals, and Granny from Ontario, she called the other night. She was talking about the Ouija boards and things like that, and I would never tell anybody what to do, but I would definitely advise you if that's something you're looking into, do it right. And then, I mean, apart from protecting themselves, Scott, you'll probably get a better experience out of it,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just to educate yourself and make sure that what you're doing, that you're doing it properly, and that, like I said, you're not just half-assing it, and that you're not getting in too deep into something that you can't pull yourself out of, And yeah,
Well, I don't know if you caught it
if
the
you
other
wanna-
night, dude, but you've always kind of put me onto programs on the Travel Channel. Bill Bean was on there with the TAPS team. He was on
Oh.
Ghost Plantation. Oh my word! Wow. And we'll be talking about that with Bill on Sunday. So, I'm telling you, dude. Talk about good woo and that TAPS team. I like how they go about things. Pretty cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
They're the OGs. At least they're the OGs here in the US. I mean, they're the ones that really started all of the whole trend of paranormal investigation shows and all of that.
What's it like for you then, Jace, over here in the UK? I mean, I watch Most Haunted. I know there's a group up in the Highlands. They contacted me and I lost their contact details, but I'll get them back. But what's it like where you are? I mean, is it quite popular? Are you one of a kind in your local area?
I've had a look, and there's a Plymouth Paranormal Society, but they seem to be friends that do it now and again. There's little bits and pieces around, but I'm not sure how many serious ones there are. But yeah, there's little groups here and there. So we've tried to contact them, but we haven't had anything. So we've just gone off and done our own thing.
Well, there's a Buddhist exorcist in the UK. I didn't have any idea that Buddhists were into exorcisms in the first place, but there is one. He's in the UK. I haven't got his name at hand, but he's warning right now with people at home, and the times that we're living in. Don't be surprised if there's more ooga boogas making their way into our reality. Any more shadows at your place, Scott?
No, nothing recently. But
that was ominous the way you said that. Nothing recently, but
we shall see, because
I thought you were going to say, but not so recently. There was this.
No, but I'm sure sometime in the near future there will be something spotted around here.
Now,
I'm sure.
Yeah, when we come back after the break, and we're almost there now, we've got a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about. I'll get the guys' take. Somebody in the chat room asked me about the Mage UFO. I know Scott hasn't really been following it too much, but I'll give a little update on the Mage UFO flap that was going on. Jason's been looking into UFOs. Now, we're going to do a separate stream altogether to talk about a particular UFO event, but I'll be getting his take on UFOs in general. I've got some ancient woo here. We've got a whole host of other stuff to get into. But just to wrap up the whole kind of ghost hunting thing, the tulpas, all that kind of jazz. When it comes to tulpas, one of the things, I think one of the best examples that we've seen, it turned up in one of the newer seasons of The X-Files, and it was an episode called Home Again. And I'm sure you'll be able to go and get this, but Home Again is the 4th episode of the 10th season of X-Files, and it features somebody called the Trash Man in it. Now, the Trash Man's an artist, and the artist, he's drawing something called the Band-Aid Nose Man. I know, it's a crazy name, right? But you come to find in that episode, long story short, Mulder and Scully, in the way that Mulder and Scully do, Band-Aid Nose Man was a painting that came to life. It was a tulpa. And when a show like The X-Files starts putting out the idea of tulpas, then you better believe it's worthy of coming on to Freaky Friday. What do you think, Scott?
You better play the music, Kev.
Oh, you mean... I've even got dolphins. We've got that. I think we've got crickets somewhere. There's the crickets. Yeah, I tell you, we've got it all going on here, boys. And you are tuned in to Freaky Friday. So we're going to be wrapping up hour number 1 in a moment. But what I want you to do, if you really could, and it won't cost you a penny, it won't take you even half a minute, just hit share. Go and tell all of that social media and all of the people that you're in contact with about Freaky Friday. And tell them it doesn't finish at Freaky Friday. Because we're merely the warm-up act. The number one, or no, this is the number 2 paranormal show on the network. Because KBS is the number 1 abnormal. Oh, so really we're both number 1. But you get me. Either way, Paranormal Portal will be right after this show. It's a show that me, Scott, and Jason love. If you like your woo and you like Freaky, then you're gonna love Brent Thomas. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Yes, there we go, boys. Now, somebody was asking in the chat room, had I seen the meteor / fireball over Australia? And I'm pretty sure I've got it here somewhere. If I haven't got it here, it'll be down here. I'll pull it up right now. Now, this thing is absolutely crazy. And why it's crazy is because it moves so slowly. Wait till you see this, guys. This is kind of mad. Incoming fireball. There we go. I'll pull this up on the screen now so that people can see this. I don't want to talk about it on the show because obviously I need to show it here. But there's a still image. And if we come down... Let's see. There's one video of it. Right? And not very good, admittedly. But there's better ones. Here we go. Look at that. That thing is massive, but the fact it's going so slowly, and I think Mammoth in the chat room, I think I heard her saying that it felt like the world was going to end. This was it. Hey, you know, we're living in strange times. There'll be signs in the sky, they say. That's weird, right? Now, it's explained as space junk. They say it was space junk re-entering, but I say, for Freaky Friday purposes, they would say that anyway. We don't know what it was. Ignore the facts,
Oh my
you know?
I was just about to say, well, it probably is space junk, Kev, because
Shh, Scott. It's Freaky Friday, man. Look at Jason. Look, he's thinking, thank you, Scott. That was highly logical, but weird, right? Weird.
I was thinking swamp gas re-entering the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Swamp gas, the old swamp gas.
Old
Yes,
swamp.
yes.
Look at that. Look at that thing. It's pretty, I mean, that's pretty slow, isn't it? Weirdly slow.
Weird.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
some good woo.
That's why it wouldn't be like a meteor, because it would be traveling at such a high rate of speed. But if it was just space junk that was rotating around the planet in, like, you know, was a geosynchronistic orbit or something like that, and it just kind of fell into the atmosphere, it'd be moving a lot slower. But that's still crazy. I mean, I bet everybody who saw that was like, whoa, whoa.
Big time. And when we come back, we'll, there's not much I can say about the Mage UFO that I didn't say on the live stream. I've been in touch with Ben Emlyn Jones. It's kind of gone quiet, apart from the absolute abundance of old videos, fake videos, CGI, and if there's anything new in there, it's getting very tiresome to find. But there's definitely, in my opinion, something happened, okay? Because we had helicopters, and I'll talk about it briefly when we come back after the break. But
I've never heard of this. So
yeah, it started trending, and then what's the worst thing that can happen to something trending to make it go even more viral? The post gets pulled down for some reason. So posts were getting pulled down, but and I'll explain when we come back in just a moment. We're just looking at the clock here. Yeah, we'll come back. We'll get into UFOs. Jason's got UFO stuff, and Jason's got a whole heap of woo that he can talk about too. Some local paranormal researcher type woo. Me and Scotty Boy, we can just we'll put our thinking caps on, and and you like my hang on, time. No, you like my wee face, Scott? There I am. Look, looking good. You know, just in case when I get embarrassed, I put my little face on there. Of course. Oh, thank you, Leroy. Here we go, folks. We are going live. I tell you, that Wookiee is up to some madness. So as we're back, we're live. It's hour number 2 on today's Freaky Friday. I can't believe it's Friday again, but here we are. And don't forget, coming up after today's show on Truth Frequency Radio is Brent Thomas with the Paranormal Portal. You don't want to miss that. I still smile when I think about the 5-hour marathon myself and Scotty done the last Friday the 13th. And the next Friday the 13th, we're going to do it all again. I'm still to tell Brent that. And every Friday I say this and I forget to do it. But we will eventually get there. Now, I don't know if some of you have been keeping up with all of the UFO activity that's been going on in the world. I obviously talk about the disclosure stuff, the soft disclosure coming to us from the same organizations and military groups that kept all of the UFO stuff secret. You know, now they're telling us all of the truth. But on top of that, something strange happened in Brazil last weekend. A small place called Mage. It's near Rio de Janeiro. And people started to report that they were seeing strange lights in the sky. There was a triangle, then there was red orbs, then there was blue orbs. And there was reports of military aircraft around before and during the event. Now, if that wasn't enough, there was also gunshots, explosions that were recorded on a number of videos, one of which was outside what we were told is a munition type place, or one report said a firework factory as well. There was meant to be a party going on there. It was a firework explosion. People had videos of military helicopters flying in formation towards where all of this was going on. And Mage, hashtag Mage UFO started to trend on Twitter. And the worst thing possible happened. If you're trying to kill a story, that is. Because some of these posts started to mysteriously disappear. And I say it's the worst thing that can happen if you're trying to cover something up, because that's the worst thing you can do on the internet, Scott, right? The minute you pull something down, you've almost given it tenfold credibility, and people want to see what they're told they can't look at, right? So you actually drive something more viral.
Yeah, because then people are like, well, why the hell did they pull the story? Then it there's more intrigue and more interest in it at that point, you know. So yeah, if you're trying to kill a story, just don't pull it down.
Well,
you're just going to drive more people to it. But
and to make it worse, Scott, make it worse, right? Make it worse. People start looking then. Where's Mage on the map? What do people do nowadays? They go to Google. So they go to Google Maps. They find Mage. They start zooming in. And when they look at Google Images, they're met with something that looks absolutely crazy. It's like a big blob. Now, when you blow this up, you can actually see what looks like something metallic in the picture. And it has some people claiming it was a disc, a saucer. But unfortunately, there's another satellite image that doesn't come from Google that has that exact same location. And it definitely is a metal object that's under that. Only it's a metal roof. Now, does this prove that all of this is bogus? It's all made up? Well, I don't know. There was also a very interesting image that appeared online, a short video. And I'm sure most people will have seen this by now, but it may be on here, yeah. It was of a ball-like thing, and it's hard to tell. It's only 13 seconds long. It looks like it's lying on the ground. This is all part of it as well. It looks like a metallic ball. Now,
what?
Exactly. Now listen, I don't know exactly what's gone on in Mage, but here's my take on it. I think something's happened. But that's all I can say. I do think something's happened, and what it is, I don't know. But Scott, the first thing that caught your attention was its location. Because there's something about South America anyway when it comes to ovnis, as they're called down there, right? Or is it
Yeah,
onvi? No, it's an ovni. That's it. Yeah.
yeah, I believe it's OVNI. Um, yeah, I mean, South America is just a hotbed of UFO activity to begin with. In general, I mean, it's literally, I mean, I consider South America like the UFO capital of the world. I mean, when you combine all of the different countries there where UFOs have been sighted, I mean, like Peru and Chile and Bolivia and all the way into like Argentina, Brazil. I mean, it's just a hotbed of UFO activity, and it makes you wonder. I mean, why is it ley lines? Is there something? What draws these UFOs to South America? And that's when you start getting into stuff like a lot of these ancient sites like Pumapunku, and that's kind of getting into the whole ancient alien thing. But um, you got to wonder, I mean, is this where a lot of maybe their old bases are located, or maybe these bases are still located there? They're just kind of overgrown by the jungle, and they're just really well hidden. I mean, there's a lot of areas in South America that like have not been explored by man really still to this day. I mean, you've got the Amazon jungle.
Well, on the Amazon jungle, I can't believe you even brought this up. And just so that people will know that I'm not making this up, I've got like a OneNote thing. Scott can see it's like random notes everywhere. I've got lines drawn. But in one segment, I've got Mysteries of the Amazon.
See,
And
there
it
you
says
go.
signs of irrigation. And you could be talking about 20 million people living there at one point. You're going back 3,500 years. But there was something in the soil that's kind of mind blowing, and it's called terra preta. And this is special soil, right, that they found in the Amazon, and it's created with these microbes in it. And it makes it so fertile, it's some of the best growing ground you could ever imagine, right? Vast areas, you find this, and it almost looks like it's burnt ground, But terra preta, it's a mystery. Because how did these ancient people, 3,500 years ago, know that the one way to make the soil fertile, and bear in mind, we know it as the Amazon rainforest today. Back then, not so much. Because you come to find that the trees and everything else that are there now today that makes up this vast rainforest, most of them introduced at separate periods over time. And the soil, this terra preta, it contains microbes only from miles away, like not anywhere near the Amazon. So how on earth's name do you have these primitive type people? Like, it's like the ayahuasca, right? How the heck do you know how to take two random plants out of 100,000 and put them together? How do you know that the one microbe you need, like 1,000 miles away, right? We'll go and get these microbes, we'll shove it in that. Who told them that, Scott? Is it the Akashic Records? Is it the ancient aliens? Are they still coming down today in Mage? I don't know.
Well, I mean, this would go back to what I've been saying about, it looks like these supposed or these ancient cultures that were supposedly isolated and never in contact with each other actually were in contact with each other, and that you had probably groups migrating not just not just regionally in South America, but you had ancient peoples migrating globally as well, right? I mean, Christopher Everard talks about the Olmecs traveling all the way to Egypt and establishing basically an ancient trade route, and that's why you find traces of cocaine in mummies, in pharaohs and stuff like that were mummified. Well, that's not native to Egypt. that's native to South America. And so for some, basically fertilizer is basically what we're talking about here, a very fertile soil to be transported to an area to make it fertile would suggest that somebody was like, hey, you need, we need to be able to grow food here or have a fertile soil, but it's only located in this location, so we need to be able to transport it from said location to here.
I mean,
And
this is agriculture on a par with the ancient technology that built the pyramids and things. Because it shows a level of knowledge that's...
They knew that the soil contained these microbes, these organisms that made it, extremely fertile, and that they needed to utilize that in order to create, agriculture in that area. So,
and we can get back to that because it's interesting. I had it down here in my notes. Scott can see it there. I don't know if Jason can see it. But what I'm talking about, it comes from Graham Hancock. Before people think, what's Kev talking about? That's Hancock's work. So I went and checked it out because I thought, I've never heard of that. And I don't care if it's Graham Hancock. And I'm sure he would congratulate me for checking what he's saying, because we should check everyone what they're saying. And oh my word. Yeah, they're talking about botanists that were getting like sexually aroused over this soil, man. They were like, whoa, what is this gear? It's crazy, right? But we can get into that, and like I say,
I need some of that soil. I need some of that soil.
Like I say, the way Graham was talking, not a rainforest back then, and these plants and trees over time all introduced and what it is today, But another show altogether probably.
So this ties back to the UFO thing because could we be talking about high technology from an ancient civilization being utilized? Let's not even look at it from the perspective of, say, aliens. What if there's like remnants of high technology that is still being utilized or activated?
And for people who think that sounds silly, I done a story about Gilgamesh the other day, Scotty. And Gilgamesh from Sumerian times, it talks about he spoke to another cat who had lots of knowledge left over from before a flood. He was a remnant from a previous cycle. So Gilgamesh, that the epic of Gilgamesh, that talks about these remnants that get left over. So, yeah, definitely. And are the aliens part of that? I don't know. But Jason, this UFO video, that video we looked at, it's a very short video. And I've got a lot of problems with that short video. Without getting into them, though, I'll tell you what I think. And it's just what I think. I think something did happen. And I think that video, the one that's gone mega super viral, I think that's bunk. But I think that's been put out there on purpose. Because when a lot of people look at the UFO, that silver ball that just sits there, why only such a short video? Why not more? It doesn't show you much. I think the lights in the sky, the helicopters flying there, the gunshots, the explosions, they don't even deny that. They just kind of give it an excuse. Fireworks going off. So I think there is something going on. No smoke without fire. But what's your take on it? Because I know you like the UFOs as well.
Yeah. I agree with Scotty. I think South America's a hotbed. I really like the way Mexico deals with it. They've got a television program. Scotty will probably know the man. I think he's been on it for like 30, 40 years. It's a massive Mexican TV UFO show. And I like to watch him. I like his...
Jaime Masun.
That's it. Yeah.
He's good.
So I really like the way Mexico do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Mexico's very open to the whole UFO phenomenon. Like it's completely different the way they approach it as opposed to how it's approached here in the U.S. And anytime that there's like mass UFO sightings, they like go live on TV. Like they break in on news and will like show footage right there from the actual news cameras themselves. Like there's a show, it's a Saturday sort of comedy slash like it's been around a long time on Univision called Sábado Gigante. And I think back in the 80s there was a mass UFO incident over Mexico City, I believe it was. and it happened live during Sábado Gigante, and they basically broke in and were showing the UFOs, and it was a bunch of orbs in formation over Mexico City, and like they were just straight up covering it, what's going on? There's a bunch of UFOs, and it's just like, wow, so the way they approach it, I think, like you said, Jason, the way Mexico and the South Americans, their view on UFOs, they're much more open about it than say like the US or even the UK or anyone like that. We tend to try to it goes back to that thing, we get all sneaky and try to hide, our governments try to hide this stuff, and it just makes people even more curious because they're like, what are they hiding? Why are they so defensive about it? And so it just draws more attention to it.
So, Jason, what do you make of the more broader picture of the disclosure that's going on right now? And then, folks, we're going to launch into some of the stuff that Jason's kind of looked out for tonight. We'll get a kind of conversation about that. But before we get there, disclosure. I'm kind of weirded out by the way we're getting shown things, and I shouldn't be. I'm the first one that should be welcoming all the information that's coming. It's something weird about it. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I agree, Kev. I've been into this since I was 11, like I said last time. My first book was Timothy Good, Above Top Secret. And I realised then that governments lie even at that young age and what they were hiding. And the more and more I got into it, then we had the 90s videos, and we had Bob Lazar in the 80s. Then obviously used to listen to Coast, loved UFO. And then we got to the point where we had like Stephen Greer when he was sitting in front of the Congress and all that. And I thought, here we go, we're actually going to get it. And then we come along like the time that Ancient Aliens come along and all that lot. I just thought, this is it. We're going to finally find out. But it's just the same stuff all the time. And it's disclosures just around the corner. It's just around the corner. But now it seems to be, I don't know, we've got this new team over in America, haven't we, with the singer in charge. Is it at the Stars thing?
To the Stars Academy, yes.
And all that lot coming out. The videos from the pilots and that are good. But like when you've done shows on them and you look at the people behind it, it's always, is it controlled opposition? Even if it is disclosure, what's it going to be? Is it going to be real? Is it Project Blue Book? So I've sort of given up hope about, I believe in UFOs, but are we ever actually going to find out?
That's a very, very good point. And, sometimes it's like banging your head off a brick wall. I firmly believe they're out there. I believe they've been here umpteen times, ongoing. There's part of me also thinks that there's probably some kind of, either historically, a treaty maybe with some that have visited, maybe ongoing liaisons. I think the kind of people that run the planet today, I don't think it's the ETs they're in contact with. I think they're in contact with something from a different realm altogether. When I talk about these ETs and disclosure, I'm talking about more the ones that come from our universe. They may travel interdimensionally and things, but they're physical. They've had their own history, their own advances, and they've obviously, either had a really accelerated path where they got all of their technology early, or they're going to be far more ancient than us. Maybe we'll find we're a very, very young species. And part of me also thinks we may well be an experiment. So, I don't know. Will we ever get closer to the truth, Scott? I think that's what makes this kind of topic so good. Because, part of me, and it sounds horrible, I don't think we will ever get closer to the truth. But talking about it's great fun.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that this topic, it's been so muddied by disinformation as well, and a lot of that is intentional, right? Like, let's just use this recent Brazil thing as an example, right? So I think we can all establish, or we can all agree, that something happened down there, right? And now all of a sudden, the internet's being flooded with fake videos and a lot of stuff to kind of muddy the water on it. And you got to wonder how much of that is intentional, right? So if you're going to try and cover up an actual event, you want to try and confuse everybody, about what actually happened. So you throw out disinformation, you throw out fake videos,
a 15-second ambiguous one, Scott, that doesn't really show much,
Yeah, exactly. So then it starts. It causes people to actually question whether the thing, whether it actually happened or not. If the thing was real. So, I think you see that time and time again when it comes to, a lot of these UFO sightings and a lot of this stuff. So yeah, you're right. It's like we'll never know, because how much of what we're being told is disinformation, how much of it is actually real, and it's hard to sift through that and figure it out. And even the most hardcore UFO investigators, I don't think really realize how much disinformation that they've been fed as well. It's a very hard thing to get to the bottom of. And I think there's only a very few, top group of people who actually know the truth about any of this, and they want to keep it that way. Right? I mean, they're not going to just, they want it, they want this topic to be just where everybody's speculating, and
exactly. It's the only topic in the world where whistleblowers are going on world tours and signing book deals and appearing all over YouTube, compared to whistleblowers like, I don't know, say your Edward Snowdens and people like Julian Assange, and there's a different type of whistleblower there. And that's not to say that everyone you hear talking about their inside information, I'm not saying that they're all full of it, but you have to wonder, folks, something that secret, something that compartmentalized, you think they're going to let them come and sit on YouTube once a week and go on all these different shows? Now, maybe they do, but I tell you what, if they do, you best be really careful what they're telling you, because I can guarantee you it's going to be 90% good, and the real clanger is going to be the good part that everyone runs away with, only that's what they want you to run away with. And that's why, as somebody who grew up, like Jason, Scott, all of us, it's almost in our genetic DNA kind of coding, something about the stars, people out there, that yearning to know, that whole, the truth is out there moment. We're all Mulders, we're all Scullys in our own right. And it's so frustrating. It truly is. But maybe we'll get closer to the truth as the Freaky Fridays go on, the apocalypse picks up speed. And we'll try and keep our finger on the ET pulse. So then, with that out the way, let me come to you, Jason. We're about to go to the break right now, so what I'm going to get you to do is tell people where they can follow you on YouTube, my good friend.
And that's Fast Paranormal, 1ST Paranormal. And if you look in the channel section, you should be able to find me. I've got a graveyard in my picture.
And we'll get into your information that you've got after the break, but you've done a number of paranormal investigations so far. What's your favourite been, man? What's the one that's really stood out for you?
Well, probably the two prison ones. The first one I did was Bodmin, and that was just amazing because I caught that red orb. And because it was my first one, and the feeling I had downstairs, it was probably my favourite. But at that prison at HMP Shepton Mallet, that was pretty good as well. So I find the prisons are pretty good.
Well, Most Haunted, Stuart and Carol, they were at Gloucestershire Prison. And it's got to have been one of the most active things I've ever seen. Jason, you need to watch it. It's on their YouTube. I know we both kind of got turned off of Most Haunted back in the day, but I can't speak highly enough. Like you, they're doing their best now to really, do it as legitimately as they can. And if you catch that, dude, prisons, obviously, very haunted.
Yeah, Kev. I plan to watch that one, but my partner Karen's asked me to wait until we can see each other again so we can watch it together. So we're going to watch that one together because she wants to watch it as well.
Ah, so you are, I mean, we're both very toxic, we know that. And now I'm finding out that we've got similar relationships. When it comes to the woo, like the paranormal stuff, Anne would fly off the handle. I would have a shoe print. Multiple shoe prints if I was to watch one of those without her. So,
Yeah.
synchronicities. And we'll be talking about that after the break as well with Jason and Scotty Lopez. You like it, Scotty? Good, that one. I'll be back. We'll be back. I'm not used to being solo this week. I apologise. The Royal We will be back after these short messages. Yeah, boys, I apologise, man. I've been that used to kind of squatting in my own gaff this week. Nobody about, just living the life of Riley, man. I tell you. Eh? No guests to tell me I'm talking crap, just me, Good stuff, guys. But this has been great so far, guys. And Scotty, looking forward to hearing some more of Jason's woo that he's got there.
Oh, man. Yeah. This is around these prisons.
Well, British prisons were mainly built, a lot of them survived from the Victorian days. They are starting to build some new ones, but a lot of them are the old Victorian granite rocks. And doing my investigations, I've actually learned that most of the granite comes from Dartmoor. So you'd have had granite, Dartmoor rock in all these prisons. And like you said about all of the conditions and the atmosphere and the energy, I just think it combines because you've got crystals in the granite. And like I said before, the medium at Bodmin said that these crystals basically can hold energy. So that's another theory, especially with all the energy that's going on in the background.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because there's a lot of talk about haunted locations being, located in areas with a high level of quartz in the stone and in the ground. And of course, quartz is a crystal, and we know that it has all kinds of, quartz is used for all kinds of stuff. And we know it can be utilized as a storage medium and all of that. So, if you have a prison that's built out of blocks that are basically loaded with crystalline structures or crystals, then all of that energy that occurred, all of that spiritual energy or whatever, is imprinted in those blocks. And yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you can go in there and you're basically looking at a record replaying itself. You're experiencing all of this stuff that's imprinted essentially into the walls of the location. So yeah, totally. And it's the same with the asylums too. The asylums here in the US, and a lot of the old ones made of stone, stonework and all of that stuff. And I'm sure it has the same effect.
Yeah. Over here, we don't have our hauntings or paranormal, though, to kind of, we don't have to look far for them, Jason, right? Because for a paranormal researcher, this is like ground zero in the UK. I mean, around where you are, all throughout the UK. Up here, I know in the near future, you're going to be taking a look at Not My Friend, Alistair Crowley, and we might not have the asylums, but we certainly have a paranormal kind of stuff going on, right?
Yeah, Kev, there's just stuff everywhere. If you look at the old castles, just the buildings, we've got old buildings. Like my local pub's like 450 years old. Do you know what I mean? Down in the village, we just got a whole history. We're really lucky. But then you take into account, like you look at Wales and Scotland and the moorlands. You've got down here in Cornwall. You've got stuff like dragons in the past, all the myths, legends. So we're just steeped in it. So we are really lucky.
Yeah, see, that's what makes me jealous of you guys, right? I mean, see, our, like a lot of our buildings and locations, it's only about as old as our country has been around, only about 200 years old at most, but you guys, I mean, you've got stuff that goes back 400, 500, 600, just, and then even beyond that, I mean, you've got like the Pictish ruins.
I was doing a
and all that.
2,000-year-old Nessie story just yesterday,
Yeah.
dude. You know?
I mean, see, so there's the trade-off, we get the asylums, you've just got the straight up history, you've just got the locations that are steeped in history. And like you said, you have a lot of those locations like the castles and all of that stuff, that's all made of stone. And the amount of history behind that, the people that have lived and interacted with those buildings over time, and we're talking about generations upon generations of people, so yeah, that's why I would love to go to the UK and go to some of these places and do like an investigation or something, because I think the history behind a lot of this stuff, and just how old a lot of these places are, just hotbed of activity. I mean, like I said, we don't have really much of that here unless you're like trying to investigate, say, some of the Native American sites is where you would get a lot of the kind of the more older kind of things here. But apart from that, no, we ain't got nothing that old, man.
So
I suppose from our point of view, Scotty, from this side of the pond, from where we are in Europe, I always see the Americas as one, so I count South America all the way up. So I technically, all that old history you've got, I count all the like Native Americans and Mexico and Brazil and Argentina, Peru.
It's a good point. And I guess the perspective we look at it from is like from when the Europeans discovered the Americas.
Allegedly.
Yes, allegedly. And then there's like a cutoff point there between like, we kind of like separate the two for some reason, which I guess we shouldn't. We really shouldn't. We should just consider all history of the Americas as one, So yeah. Good point. If we want to look at the Aztecs and the Incas and all of that old stuff and the Peruvian things, and we got some pretty old stuff in here.
And you got the Bermuda Triangle just off a place called Florida that's home to Florida Man. Come on, dude, you got it all going on over there. But Jason, let me come to you, big man, because I threw it out there to you a couple hours before the show today. Very gracious. I said, come and hang with me. Didn't expect Jason to bring anything along. I said, I'll cover it, dude. We'll just bounce off each other. Then Scott came along. Joe will be here at the break. But you've lined up some stuff there, and you were talking about synchronicity, man. Now, synchronicity is something that is... Listen, if it wasn't for synchronicity, TFR wouldn't exist. Synchronicity brought Chris and Cherie together. It brought them into doing a show. It brought people like me and so many others that still listen to Chris and Cherie today to this show. Brought me on air, brought us together. Synchronicities are the way the simulation works, dude. Tell me about yours.
I really am starting to believe that, Kev. A couple of weeks ago on one of your shows, you was talking about technology and how we're only rediscovering what we've lost. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah. So I was thinking of it from a paranormal view, because obviously I'm interested in the turn of the century when it was at its heyday in Britain, because that was the only show in town back then, wasn't it, Kevin?
Yeah.
Everyone was into it. It was the only thing, the famous, the rich, the poor.
It was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They were on daytime TV. They were featured on the news. It was somebody from one of our biggest TV shows, Blue Peter. A generation grew up with Yvette Fielding and things,
Yeah. So, I forgot where we were a sec. Sorry, Kev.
Don't know. Can't remember either. Synchronicity.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I was thinking about all the stuff we've lost to do with paranormal. So if you look at great people like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and people like that, they all did investigating. Everyone did back then. They all done their own investigating, tabletopping, glass spinning, Ouija boards, and you think like the story, like the Devil's Footprints you've covered before.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for someone finding the Reverence papers, apart from it coming out in 1855 in the papers, no one would have ever heard about that story again. It was just a pure accident that someone found his papers and re-released the story, and then it gained ground. So I was thinking along the lines of how much stuff have we lost to do with like paranormal and like what we were talking about earlier, ancient alien theories. Just it goes into everything, doesn't it? Like I think the smarter we get with technology, the dumber we're getting with what we used to know.
Oh, absolutely. You know, here's a thought experiment for anyone. And myself and Jason were around about the same age, Scotty, you know, and if you can remember before the internet, you know, imagine a big story happening in the world. Or imagine you were maybe even better one, looking at, watching a movie, right? Imagine you're watching a movie right now, in this time. You watch a movie, you see somebody on it, take you seconds, get on your phone, Google it. Amazon Prime, you press the button, it tells you who the actors are. Boom. That's who they are, remember it. What happened back in the day before the internet? How did we ever find out what film that actor was in? Did we have to go to a library? Did we have to seek somebody out with that information? No, we had to think about it. We had to think about it, and then if we couldn't remember, so what? But now, our minds, because of the information that's out there, truly thinking has become a very secondary thing, because we're so used to everything being given to us, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, and this has resulted in the attention span, Scott. It's resulted in probably a long-term effect that it might take generations to fix, getting back to thinking the way we used to. You know, where 2 and 2 doesn't equal 5 either. I mean, it's really strange, man, and Jason's right.
Oh, he's totally right. And I've talked about this before as well. I mean, our dependence on technology, I don't know, like, I think we've been plugged in for so long now, that if you were to just like imagine if something were to happen and cell phone communication satellites went offline and everybody lost access to Wi-Fi or just their cell signal, and that was it. No one had a cell phone anymore. Everyone's smart devices just went offline. I think some of the older generation would be able to cope with it, obviously. But a lot of the younger generation that has grown up accustomed to having that instant access, and that's essentially all they know, right? They don't, and it's not their fault. I know we like to try and talk smack on the younger generation, but for being quote unquote stupid or whatever, but they're really not. It's the way that they have grown up. That's what they've had access to, and that's the way that they learned. They've just always known that they could get on their smartphone, type something in, and learn about it or get information about it, as opposed to doing what we used to have to do, which was like go to the library and do research, use the old, card codex thing and look for a book. And, it's just different now. So if you remove that, I think society would have a hard time dealing with it. And let's be honest, there's even a lot of people in like our age that probably couldn't cope with having their cell phone taken from them as well. I mean, I see people our age just as addicted to their cell phone and using it for everything that they used to be able to do without the internet it's become such a convenience now that even they have basically, become, I guess you could say, dependent on it.
Well, think about this
And
as well, Scott, because we used to remember phone numbers, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, people nowadays, I mean, this has been spoke about so much, but think about what they've done to our memories there. We used to remember, say, 9-digit numbers, maybe more at times. And I used to be one of these freaks that could rattle them off. But what they done was, they cleverly got us down to forget long numbers. You just need 4. All you need is 4 numbers, a PIN number. And we all got used
yeah.
to doing a 4-digit number. And we all got used to that. And even then, it's hard to remember, Scott, right?
And I'm one of these rare individuals who still memorizes phone numbers because I don't own a cell phone, And so I don't have a contact list that I just add everyone in and I don't have to remember their numbers. I physically still have to log all their numbers in my mind. And so I remember everyone's phone number still, which is kind of crazy.
Your face
And
should be
people are
on
like,
t-shirts. Honestly, your face should be on t-shirts, man.
But to Jason's point though, like when it comes to the paranormal, like how much have we forgotten or spiritual or any of this kind of knowledge that we've sort of replaced it with technology in a way, and I talk about we need to find a way to balance out our dependence on technology with, say, kind of like grounding ourselves with the natural world as well. The technology isn't going to go away, obviously. It's going to be there. We just have to find a way to strike a balance between the two. And how much of this like ancient knowledge and stuff that people used to
Sorry, my bad. Press the wrong button, Scott.
like oh man,
Well,
it looked like
it is kind of for the first time in months, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a cryptid on the show with us. Is it a mirage? Did all of you out there think this man into existence? Joe Joseph. Welcome back, Joe. He may be back, but hey, still the same old Joe. Always forgetting to unmute himself, Or maybe Joe, maybe he's lost the power of speech. Maybe he's become an entirely new cryptid altogether. He's not showing his face. Maybe he's metamorphized into, I don't know, maybe he's a dolphin now. I don't know.
I think Speakerhead or whatever that new Tulpa is got a hold of him.
Now, I had this the other night on my show. We had a caller on the line, and it's the first time probably in radio history, podcast history, where the host has literally thought he was doing a seance on the air. Is there anybody out there? Joe. Is your name Joe? Are you there? You see, I'm getting used to this clairvoyancy thing, dude. Jason, I don't mean to step on your toes, brother, but my show's turning into a bit of an investigation. I'm telling you, man. So while we wait for Joe to uncloak or materialize or whatever Joe Joseph does, tell us, what else have you dug up for tonight, man? What weird, wooey type stories have you got for us?
Well, I'm going to cover the Devon flying cross UFO, because being Dartmoor, we can't just have any UFO. It has to be a cross one.
Nice.
So we've got that, and just going to go over a little bit of the Dartmoor stuff just to finish that off and let you know a couple of stories in there. We got the battle with the Devil and St Michael on Brentor. So just some. I've sent a load of pictures so you can put them on for everyone to see in the chat. So
I tell you what, Scott, you ask a guy to come and hang with you. He doesn't just come and hang with you. He teaches you how to hang. What a guy!
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's dive in.
Scott, no, wait a minute though, Scott. Wait a minute. I remember from the Ouija boards back when we used to do them in the day, right? And Jason will probably get this as well. They respond to certain voices. Now, we know Joe in his physical form already mistakes me for a leprechaun, an Irishman, and I can assure you I'm not an Irishman. However, Scott, maybe it'll respond to your voice. It will respond. Try and give a shout out, man.
If there's anyone out there who would like to contact us, please let us know. Give us a sign.
Dude, you need an ASMR channel right now. There's people who would pay money to sit and listen to you talking all quiet and seductively into the microphone. Not that I think you're trying to seduce me or Jason or Joe right now. Far from it. But you know what I'm saying? Some people really get into that whole kind of, that whole breezy thing, you know?
I'm trying to seduce whatever entity contact us. See?
Yeah. I tell you what, forget the incubus or succubus. They're scared to come here. The powers of seduction lie with Scotty Lopez. But folks, we're getting a bit silly. We're getting a bit funny. But we're almost on the end of hour number 2. What we're going to do during the break is we are going to reset our batteries and we are going to give you one hell of a last hour because we must. We've got Jason here with stories of the devil, flying crosses, Scott. I mean, how can't we, right?
Yeah, we've got to get into that. That's just.
And before we go, Jason, then tell Scotty briefly a little bit about that whole Sphinx that we talked about the last time I had you on the show. Because I blew Scott's mind with that, dude.
Yeah, well, I was covering a story. I was going to do the main stories of Dartmoor. Because when we was in school, we used to get told these myths. So I've covered a couple of them. And one of them was Vixen Tor witch story, how the handsome man was given a magical ring and he managed to beat the witch, and then kill her. But looking into that story, I come across the Sphinx of Dartmoor. Now, I'd never heard of it, and it's only literally 15 minutes away from my house. And I spent all my childhood, like most of us, riding up to the moors to go in the old rock pools and quarry pools just because it was a cool place to go and it was hot and sunny. And I've never heard of the place. And apparently some people have. And there was a big battle about the land. And it turns out someone bought it in the 1920s because it's the biggest tor in Dartmoor. And people used to climb it in the 1800s. And they stopped it in the 1920s, went into private hands and then rebought somewhere about 2003, 4, something like that. And even the Dartmoor National Park took these people to court because they wanted people to be able to go rambling. They do something on the moors that's letterboxing. You go to each tour and there's a letterbox stamp in it and you stamp your card and then you go to the next one. I believe they do it all digital now, like everything else. But this is the tour you're not allowed to go on. So, it really surprised me that I'd never heard of it. And I started asking family and friends and no one had really heard of it. There is records from the Rock Climbing Association from about the 1800s to 1920 climbing it. And the Ramblers Societies kept going on it till about the 70s, even though they shouldn't have. And they had a lot of battles they've done there. And so, they lost the court case and whoever owns it won their right to keep it private, which is really weird because the whole of Dartmoor is like a national park. Even though there's farmland and it's owned by farmers, 15% of the land's owned by the army and the rest is either national park or each county that it's in. So, it was just really weird. I've never heard about it.
Well, it's definitely a weird looking place. I mean, for me, that looks, and again, pareidolia, very face-like, right? Very, very face-like. And I just think it's weird anyway that Jason hadn't heard of it. It's good woo, man. It's good woo. But I'm looking forward to the flying cross and then some battle with a devil. And all of that's coming up before we hand off to the amazing Brent Thomas, and he'll take you through the paranormal portal. All that and more on tfrlive.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. There we go. Yes, I'll try and add in our good friend again. Here we go. We'll see if he...
I'm going to shoot him. I've just got to shoot, Kev. I've got some charge issues. I'm going to grab your charger.
No problem. I thought you were probably going to have a herbal remedy or two, but you go get your thing. Go get it, man. Mate. Now let's see if Joe will join us. Let's see.
Is he trying to pull a Popeye? Is he trying to be the?
He's got no prima donna
drunk-
on me, man. I'll be there in 5 and I'm Joe Joseph and
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
you know here's the thing, right? Before he gets here, I used to like get excited when he would come on the radio and things because I used to like listen to his show and stuff. And then one time when I was walking about the work, I actually nearly fainted because he mentioned my name on his show. This was way before I'd ever done any radio or anything like that. And to me, Joe Joseph was like, he was like up there with Alex Jones. It's true what they say, folks. Never go and meet your heroes, right? Because it spoils everything, Scott, you know? You got to build them up to knock them in the cane axe, bro. I tell you. He's messaging away here. Call me when you're ready. Oh, nice timing. I'm glad he missed that. Yes. Remember, folks, I'll be here tomorrow, daytime in the UK, with a Down Under special. Yes, we're going on walkabout. Oh, come on, I'm calling you. I'm calling you. Oh, what a man. He's turned into bloody Popeye. I wonder if he's living in Florida as well. So, yes, I hope you're all update or sign in again. I hope you're all enjoying tonight's Freaky, folks. I'm having a blast. Jason is absolutely amazing. His channel, First Paranormal, I can't recommend it highly enough. Please go check it out. Sign up to it. And Joe Joseph will be here in a moment. He's restarting his PC now, Scott. Oh, nothing but drama. Nothing but drama. Drama Rama Joe. Eh? Telling you, man. You look deep in thought there, Mr. Scott. What's going on?
I'm adding Joe's other Skype.
Did I add the wrong one? Ah, that's the problem. Yeah. I'll tell him. Yeah, that was my fault. Yeah. I'll take the rap for that one, right? I was adding his like alter ego that went out of commission about 5 years ago or something. Uh-oh. Nope. Well, he's not signed back in yet, but we'll get him when he comes back in. Don't you worry about that. We've got Joe. We've got him covered, I think. So yes, like I say, I'll be on tomorrow. We're going down under. And then I'll be on tomorrow night as well with Scotty. We'll find some fun comedy type stuff. The Tulpamancers maybe we should have left for tomorrow night because that's a world we need to get into on an entirely different stream, right?
We can still get into it. I mean, there's a lot more.
Oh, there's a lot more. Trust me, there's a lot more to go there.
Or untapped woo.
You know, Scott, we barely looked over the precipice of the rabbit hole. The event horizon was merely before us. We hadn't even dipped our toes in it. Here we go. I'm going to bring back the network. Here we go. Yes, we are back for hour number 3 on this week's Freaky Friday. I'm Kev Baker. We've got Scotty Lopez and Jason Meritt, aka First Paranormal. He is here with us, and he is going to take us on a journey of some real deep woo. Talking about UFOs a lot on the channel lately. Big fan of Skinwalker Ranch, and definitely some UFOs flying about in there. And Jason, he's got some local UFO woo. Talk to me, man. What's going on?
Well, as you know, I've been covering the Dartmoor series. So I just wrote in the internet, Dartmoor UFO. And this is what I come up with. So it's called the Devon Flying Cross Incident. So if you stick the first 4 pictures that I sent you in Discord, into the TFR chat,
Okay.
the first picture would be a black and white photo of PC Willie, and PC Waycott.
Okay, now hang on. I need to get my Discord up here. Hang on now. Right, so this is camera number 9, is it? Picture number 9?
No, picture number 1.
Right, oh, okay, I'm getting it now, dude. I'm getting it now. Right, on you go. You keep talking, I'll bring up the picture of the police here.
Yeah, so if you put the first 4 pictures in, the first one's a picture of the police officers, the next 2 are newspaper headlines, and the next one's them in their car, the one that they chased, so the Americans could see what kind of cars he was using back then. So we've got PC Roger Willie, and we've got PC Clifford Waycott. And they saw an incident at 4 o'clock in the morning in Oakhampton, which is just on the edge of the moors in Devon, and it was over Holsworthy as well. It was on the 24th of October, 1968, and they chased this UFO for 14 miles. So the way I've done my video is I've done it in sort of different parts. So I'll break it down. The first part was all about the newspaper clippings that I've put up there in the interviews that they gave to the newspapers. So the officers claim to have seen a cross-shaped UFO at 0400 hours on the 24th of October 1967. They spotted it above the tree tops. They called into the station and then gave chase. They travelled at 50 miles an hour, and then it seemed to stop and hover. Then it sped off at over 90 miles an hour. It says in the newspaper reports that they woke a man in a lay-by called Christopher Garner, who was a 29-year-old from Luton, which corroborated the story. So PC Wiley said in the news interviews, it was definitely there, and it was definitely either moved by some sort of being or remotely controlled. It had no sound. Then PC Waycott said, it was just in front of us. We were traveling very fast. The acceleration of it was terrific, so we never really got underneath it to hear a sound. The RAF denied that there was any aircraft in that area at the time, and also that they had no plane at that time that could hover and also move at supersonic speeds. But you do know, being British, Kevin, especially in the army, the British did design the first ever hovercraft plane, didn't they, in the Harrier jump jet?
Yep.
But they did say that this was well before this time. And the MOD didn't release the files on this until 2005 when they released them all, Gav. Do you remember Ben talks about how they released them all in 2005?
Yep.
So part 2 of this is actually the MOD file that I found. So if you'd like to post picture 5, that's the actual MOD report.
Okay. You just keep talking and just you tell me when to bring the
So what I'll do
pictures
is
up.
I'll read each page that I've done on the video. I'll read the whole letter to what they put. They put, have no record of a balloon, helicopter or aircraft at that time in the area. There was another incident in October coming from a ground source, but not linked to the policeman's case. It then says, Venus is the most likely explanation. Venus is known to be on the eastern horizon at that time of the day and that time of the year. DI-55, which is a department in the section of Directorate of Scientific and Technology Intelligence, that was the intelligence committee that was behind what was going on at the time, under the DIS, which is the Defence Intelligence Staff. It goes on to say that it was not possible to assert that this explanation was true in the face of certain information given by the policeman. So at the moment, they're trying to say it was Venus. But in the next part, it puts in particular the policeman with the opinion looking towards the northeast, and that the light moved on the one side of the road and to the other while they drove close to it. On the other hand, it was apparent that the police officers had rehearsed their story as they had gone several TV and several newspaper interviews before a DI-5 officer interviewed them. So they're basically saying they think it's Venus, and that the policeman, they've done an ITN news interview and lots of paper interviews before the government interviewed them. So they're trying to say that they had their story done before, because it says in the next bit that by this time they had drawn their own conclusions, e.g., that they had seen a spaceship. While they observed this, they followed the Holsworthy to Haverley Road. This road runs west-east, but is also winding. So now they start talking about they're going to try and start blaming the road conditions. But as the policeman said, they were northeast, where earlier they said that they comes in from the east. So it goes on to say the light appear to move when they chase the car. In view of the mind of the two policemen and the winding nature of the road, some doubt can be expressed about the absolute reliability of their account. Venus is still a plausible explanation for what they saw. And then it goes on to say, I think it would be most unfortunate in light of conflicting conclusions of the policeman and the department to make any off-the-record comments about the policemen as liars or exaggerators. It then goes on to say, however, the RAF may make an off-the-record suggestion to then MP Peter Mills, which was their local MP, that the most likely explanation is Venus, as the police didn't 100% see what they saw. So that's what the MOD have got to say about this incident.
Yes, Scott, it's just, it's not swamp gas over here. It's just Venus, my friend. It's Venus. We don't do swamp gas in the UK. We're very prim and proper. We have a cup of tea in the morning and we look at Venus.
As long as it's not Mercury in retrograde, I'm doing just fine.
Holy moly! Oh, it's all kicking off now.
Did I just hear the dolphin call?
Yes, you did. Joe Joseph, how you doing, man? You're like a spectre. We were trying to contact you on our digital Ouija board earlier on. It was like really kind of creepy. I thought you'd fallen out with me. Scott tried to summon you. If that hadn't worked, Jason was next. He's got the powers of summoning things. He's a paranormal investigator. Before we go back to Jason, how you doing, Joe? I thought you'd been body snatched, man.
Yeah, no, man. Just been busy, but doing very fun and crazy, wild,
crazy things.
Okay. Yes,
Good.
like when you are what they consider an essential worker.
Yes, exactly,
Yes.
Joe. Don't
when
bore
you're an
people.
essential
It's
worker,
Freaky
it's like-
Friday. Don't bore you. Yes, indeed. Dearie me. It was almost getting all serious there. Come on, Joe. Can we summon up the real Joe Joseph, please?
So anyway, now that that's all over with.
Yes. Well, you see, we've got a man here that lives in close proximity to the hairy hands, Joe. He's in ground zero for the hairy hands.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice indeed.
Yes, indeed.
So yeah, that's cool, man. So what's been going on?
This and that. I've been going full woo, pedal to the metal on the woo front. Bit of this, bit of that. The odd shenanigans here or there. No getting in cahoots with anyone. I'm trying to think. But apart from that, not a lot, dude. I've been spending a lot of time at home lately, funnily enough. Reading some good books, watching some good TV, and doing a lot of podcasting and streaming. Nothing much going on in the world apart from the woo.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I've missed you, man.
Yeah, man, I missed you guys too.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. No, absolutely. And the Skittles really brought it out in me tonight. So it's
good man. And obviously, a lot of the woo crew here enjoying a herbal friend tonight. And talking to herbal friends, I'm going to hand back to Jason and get on mine. But Jason, I've never heard of this one before, dude. But I'm not liking the explanation. Like, don't believe the police. You can't trust the police. I mean, they're only the police.
Well,
don't trust them, Scott.
I like how the MOD was basically like, well, don't just outright call them liars, but just explain to them that what they saw wasn't really what they saw.
Of course not. No, believe not. It's like the Men in Black, They take out their pens.
Any men in black around this, Jace? No men in black come into this, do they?
With hairy hands?
I'm not going to say not really, but sort of. We'll get into that.
Oh,
Oh, I see. I knew that there had to be some sort of Men in Black shenanigans going on here.
So the first part covered the news clippings that he posted and the.
Oh no, I've got to work again now, right? Oh dang! Here we go.
So the second part covered the MOD report, which I just read. So if you go to picture 6, it's actually a 1.5-minute video.
Well,
Now,
I can't. We'll skip that one just now.
Okay. So what it is it's a 1967 interview from ITN News, and basically it's their interview that I read out at the beginning.
I can play it. Is there audio?
Yeah.
Right then. Right, here we go. Hang
The
on.
actual news.
Patrol car Delta 9 with PC Roger Willie and PC Clifford Waycott, based at Oak.
Is his name Roger Willie?
Yeah.
I was just gonna point that out, man. He had to really have tough skin growing up.
I don't know why Anne is such a child. Anne found that quite funny. I don't know. I obviously don't know what's funny about Officer Willie, but I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull nothing, Officer Willie. I'm gonna get this up on. Can we just start this whole segment again, maybe?
Yeah, she was a real dick. Yes.
Hey, hang on. It's all going horribly wrong here. What have you done to me, Jason? Let's just listen to it. Ah!
Out on night duty patrolling the A3072, Hatherley to Holsworthy Road. Precisely 1 minute past 4 o'clock this morning, they sighted an object 400 yards away from them and at treetop level. They reported immediately to Oakhampton Police Station, where further men were brought out. Driving the patrol car at the time, can you describe it to us?
Well, the object was likened unto a cross.
This has got like the police in
How
uniform.
high would that be on an estimate?
Well, it varied at varying points of its journey. It was attaining high altitude and was down to sort of treetop levels at other.
Let's just pause it there, right? Because I mean, here you've got a police officer that's writing down a report. He's showing you a 4-pointed star. It's got a glowing kind of light around it. Now, I mean, as somebody that's done night shift, gone to work early in the morning in the UK, I've seen Venus. I've never seen Venus looking like that, Jason.
I was about to say,
I have the answer. I have the answer, guys. I just straight up. I already know what it is. And you guys should know better than this. It is clearly Nibiru.
Nice call, Joe. Nice call.
Yeah. I mean, we've got to have Nibiru come in at some point here.
Now,
Why not?
let's not let the fact that this was when, Jason?
Well, it's Southern Hemisphere, right?
October 1967.
Okay, 1967. So this cycle of Nibiru, it's coming back now because I see lots of pictures online of it. It's a quick orbit. If it
Don't
went
let
through
the
in
facts get in the way of a good story, Kev.
I was just going to say, if it went through in 67, I think we're pretty safe if it goes by again. We'll just have a couple of cops saying that they've seen Venus again, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's all good. It's Nibiru. It's just it's a lot faster than they thought.
Come on, Jason. Take us
so,
away from this silliness. Add your professional woo to this, my friend.
Yeah, so then you've got the footage from the police officers, because it seems that the report the MOD said was correct. They went on the telly, they've done loads of newspaper reports, and this, you forget, they've only just seen this at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's the same day. So it's pretty quickly that they've managed to get to them. And so, but fair play to them for being policemen in them days and putting themselves forward. They must have got a lot of ridicule. So
no, I bet you Officer Roger Willie didn't get any abuse whatsoever.
My ass.
Constable,
my ass, he didn't.
Constable Willie. Constable Willie.
Holy
Stand to
schmoly.
attention.
I'm trying to be serious, but I'm going to make it worse now. There is a part in the video that I have to say, Roger Willie says, "Let's go after the big shaft of light," or something like that. And it took me so long to do this audio on my own. I was like a 4-year-old.
God
I have
bless
no
you,
idea.
man.
No idea why that would be funny at all. Ah, dang, dude, dang. Jason, I love you, brother. This is why I love you, man, honestly.
So the next part, I've put in the police actual reports. So the police reports claim that basically the same sort of thing. They were on this A3072 between Oakhampton and Hatherley. 2 on-duty police officers, PC Clifford Waycott and PC Roger Willie, had spotted a pulsating flying cross. This is the bit which flying above the locations. It was seen at low altitude, moving above the treetops on the surrounding countryside. They began to chase the UFO, however, never gained on it. At one point, they stopped at a farm and woke the owner to help corroborate the story. The reason I've stopped now is if you notice the bit where I talked about the news reports, they said in their news reports they stopped a man from a lay-by from Luton, and he was 29, to collaborate the story. But here, in the official police report, it's saying they went to a farmer.
Ah, that's 12 seconds.
Yeah. So it goes on to say, the light wasn't piercing, it was just bright. It was star-shaped, spangled, like looking through wet glass, which I think is quite peculiar. It went to speeds of 90 miles an hour, but it says here, before it disappeared, the officers saw a second UFO, which was also cross-shaped and very bright with no sound.
Well, that couldn't have been Venus unless Venus now has like a twin star, right?
So then it goes on to say in the police report, both officers were impressed by the speed of it, especially the first one. Inquiries near RAF Gisner proved negative. And it goes on to say that 2 days later, this is where it gets weird. 2 days later, on the 26th of October, 67, at 02:05 hours in the morning, the location Oakhampton again. It says 2 days after his involvement in the famous UFO chase, PC Roger Willie observed a similar star-shaped UFO. It was seen to drop down low as if to land in the area it was seen. The sighting was very brief and only lasted a few seconds. So the MOD don't report this, and it's not in the newspaper, but in the police reports, they claim to see a second UFO, and Roger Willie sees one a couple of days later, the same shape again. So then it moves on to say that Clifford recalls it as though it was yesterday. Sorry, I went too far.
I'm a child. I'm sorry I couldn't answer you there because I was getting ready to giggle because you said that highly triggering name again. Can we just call him like? Can we call him like Officer X?
Yes, let's just call him Dick Trickle. Yeah.
We call him Roger. Yeah, Roger will do, man.
Okay, because I've said it so many times, I got used to it, got over it. So in part 4, I then went on to show, you can now show the pictures, Kev, of 7 and 8. So if you go to Discord and do pictures 7 and 8.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Hang on.
That's Roger and Clifford nowadays.
Hang on then. We get Roger. Hang on. I need to get Roger over to the chat room and things, and I need to... Hang on. There's Roger there. There he is. There's Roger. Officer X in our little story that we're doing here. Yeah. Fine-looking gentleman, upholding citizen, upholding the law there.
Yes, of course.
So these guys did a BBC interview in 2004, ready in anticipation for the release of the MOD files in 2005.
Okay.
So
was this when Nick Pope was in charge of the MOD, like kind of X-Files, or was he still, or had he left by then?
Did he? I think he'd left by then, hadn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the dates.
Left just before they released them all, because I remember him talking about it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that he wasn't involved in writing some of this, does it?
Well, what do you make of him, Jason?
I like him, but it's hard to trust him because he was on the inside. Is he someone? I'd like to believe he's like Mulder, that he's seen so much that he carried it on, or is he a plant?
Yeah, you got to be very careful. It's like I always giggle when somebody says they're ex-CIA, Never ex-CIA, right? And it's the same over here, Scott, right? You work for the MOD as the guy that's taking the UFO reports, and, you know, the media never change their attitude. They're always kind of belittling this topic. Can you trust that guy when he then becomes the voice of UK ufology? I don't know the guy personally. I just want your opinion, you know?
Well, I mean, that's where it goes back to what I was saying earlier about this topic being so muddied with disinformation and stuff like that. Like, how do you know for sure that he's the real deal and that he's telling the truth? Or is he just merely kind of playing the part as, you know, the disclosure guy trying to get to the truth? And is he feeding people disinfo? I mean, we just don't know. You know, like Jason,
you know, it's kind of hard, Scotty, if you think about it. Think about this. How do you trust any of it? Just like government, how do you trust anything they say? How do you do that? It's just like everywhere. It's like trust has eroded across the board. So how do you trust the fact that what this person's saying is genuine and they're not just doing it for attention or but some other means? You know what I mean? It's very hard to kind of narrow in on that, but there are some pretty definitive cases where it's a no doubt, you know, contact situation.
So what else have you got on it, Jace?
So, like I said, these pictures of them retired now. So they do an interview in 2004 for the BBC. So Roger had to say, the sighting is still vivid. We were making our way back from Holsworthy and Haverley when we saw an unusual bright white light in the sky above. We both registered what we seen, and it was something we couldn't logically account for. It was something that I have never seen before and haven't seen since, and nobody can explain what exactly was. Then Clifford goes to say on in this new interview, and he recalls the evening as though it was yesterday. My view of it was that it was moving slowly. It wasn't a star. It was bright. It was white. If you look at glass, which has rain on it, it was the same. It was just too eerie. We were visited by a boffin from the MOD. He told us we were to stick under we were still under the Official Secrets Act, and we kept it to ourselves. So that's the bit where they were told by the MOD now to...
Okay, whoa. If it's Venus, Joe, why is the MOD saying don't talk about it?
No, because it's probably something along the lines of DARPA or equivalent technology. It's probably very high military tech.
We don't have DARPA
like
over here. Yeah,
get out of here, man. You know what I'm saying. You guys have the DARPA equivalent.
You never watched James Bond? I can't even say who we've got over here because it's a letter that doesn't exist in my alphabet anymore.
That's what I'm saying. So shh.
Yes.
But I'm saying that maybe it is that type of clandestine, like very deep black type of scenario where you have that high tech, that cutting edge tech, perhaps even alien tech.
Well,
I
get
don't
this,
know.
Joe, right? I mean, we've had more naval reports now called hazard reports, hazard warnings, and a piece of new kind of speak or kind of jargon has come up in the Navy documents, and that's UAD, Uniform Alpha Delta, Unidentified Aerial Device. So this is a new one. So we've got UFO, what we all used to use. We've got UAP, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. And now we've got UAD, which is in the documents that have been released. It's all it's actually from, it must be round about where you were, Joe, North Carolina. It was,
oh, okay.
Yeah, exercises that were taking place off the coast there. Hornets, F-18 Hornets. And,
yeah. That would be like, let's see, the Cherry Point for the Marines, and they basically do their exercises right up and down the coast there.
Yeah, so this is where these reports came from, and when we come back on the other side, Jason's got probably more on this, and we need to squeeze in his story about some battle with the devil. Dang, dude. And then don't forget, folks, tomorrow some KBS Extra, don't miss it. I'm going down under during the day. Oh yes, we'll be right back. Final segment on the way. Don't go anywhere. Now, I won't literally be going down under during the day, obviously, you know, I'm not physically going there, but we will be going down under tomorrow. I believe it's going to be round about lunchtime. I'll be shoring up all of that when I get off Freaky Friday. My attention will happily go to the golden land of Oz and all the good stuff down there. The Nephilim kangaroos that are 2.5 meters tall. That is terrifying, but they had them back in ancient times, and tomorrow we'll be hearing about their real Australia. Can't wait to get into that.
They just had that space junk that flew over and disintegrated over Australia.
Yeah, we looked at that, dude. It's that synchronicity, man. You're on the same vibe. You haven't lost it, Joe. Yeah, pretty cool, right? Oh-ho, oh-ho.
Hi chat peeps, Mr. Baker Zordon, great to see you. Jason, great job Joe Joseph, holy shit, that was the longest bathroom break in the history of Freaky 3 weeks. Woo, PPP.
And yes, for anyone who's wondering what is Zordon all about, well, Scott Lopez is Zordon. Look at that, ladies and gents. Come on.
Oh my God, that is unbelievable. What did you do to yourself? You look like an earthworm.
No,
dude.
no, that's Zordon from like Power Rangers, right?
I know, but it looks like an earthworm.
It does a little. It does, but it looks like a really happy Scott as well.
Yeah,
Look at that,
in a wormhole.
dude. Look at
in
it.
a wormhole.
You could have that for like, I tell you, man, that is
Or maybe,
uncanny.
you know what that is? You know what that is? That's a fallopian tube.
Dude. Although it also looks like the head of a swimmer. That's all I'm going to say.
That's what I'm. Yeah, that's why I said that.
All
yeah,
I'm going to say. Yes, now you can't unsee that.
No,
but it'll always be Scotty Zordon.
That's right.
So yeah.
Hey, look, hey, my swimmer won. So, right?
Huh.
You are our
kind of have
exile.
that does have that aquatic kind of sound, doesn't it? yeah.
Anne is just about wetting herself at Zordon, dude. I'm telling you, man. We've got Anne Craney in the chat room tonight. A big shout out for the boss. Yeah, she literally. Yeah, she runs the show, dude. You know that. I know that.
The true CEO of KBS is in the house. So.
Yep, she's negotiating my deal. You know, I'm going to be following in the heels of Joe Rogan. I'm not going to be getting. I'm not going to be getting the 100 million that he's getting, but we've kind of weighed it up. Joe's 100 million. Me, I'm getting a couple of shekels and a free smoke if I go to Spotify. But nah, I'm only joking. But did you see that move, Joe?
Oh, absolutely, dude.
Oh, good on him,
good
man.
For
good
him.
on him. Yes, it's a big deal.
Hell yeah.
And it just shows you how big podcasting, people broadcasting from home, etc. That's where people are watching. You know, it must terrify these established kind of media companies to see what's happening. Hey, we're in a new age now, gentlemen. Everything's changing.
Yeah, I equate it to kind of the shift you saw in the music industry.
Here we go. 2 seconds, Scott. I need to bring back the network. There we go. Yep, he's even got a bit of Wookiee Tourette's. He kind of he just doesn't know when to stop, does the Wookiee? But we're moving into the final part of this week's Freaky Friday. It's been one of these shows where it's gone really quick, but at the same time, when I think of all the information we've covered, from the new Tulpa of the SIRENHEAD all the way to police officers with really interesting names. Been told that, you know, don't believe your eyes, folks. They're just cops. They don't know what they're talking about. It's quite obviously just a planet they're looking at. 2 planets, according to one of the cops. Don't let that get in the way of the MOD telling them to shut their mouths as well. This has got all the ingredients, Jason, man. I tell you, it's a good one.
Yeah, I'll just wrap it up. The last bit they said in their new interview was Roger and Clifford say they didn't imagine their sighting, and they're still waiting for a logical explanation. No explanation has been given to us, and we haven't asked. We're just gently asked to sweep it under the carpet. It didn't happen. But we know what we saw. And that's how they ended it. And that was the interview they gave 37 years, and they haven't budged on what they said, and they're still adamant that this happened. And I actually got in contact with Ben Emlyn Jones because we're friends on the Zuckerberg. And he said that basically I had most of the evidence that he had, and basically that's what he had. And he did say it was one of the more famous cases in Britain. So maybe one day, if you got 5 minutes, you can ask him. He'd probably know a lot more than me.
How about the next time when I have Ben on, right? How about you come and hang with us, dude?
Oh boy, the brain power would be staggering.
Yeah.
Fancy that, Jace?
Yeah, I'm sure he knows.
Dude, that would be badass, Jason. You should do that.
Yeah, because he said to me he knows people in the local area that might know a little bit more about it.
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah. And like I say, anything I can do to help you get out there with your work, I'm into, because I'm into your woo. And
Thanks, Kev.
no, that'll be really, really good. And Ben, he's been talking about the Pentic UFO incident. And I think, after Rendlesham, and we're still only, this only happened a couple of years ago.
But boy, oh boy, that's a biggie.
Yeah, Pentic, it's got the potential to be something huge because you got guys in like biological type spacesuits with guns on. People been told nothing to see here. It's just Vodafone in the area looking to put in some new technology and that. Oh, move along. That one there, Jason. I mean, come on, that's pretty. And again, military ground in Wales. Lots of military activity there. Rendlesham, RAF Bentwaters, down where you are, Marines. Yeah. I mean, there's something about
hey guys, let's not forget this too. I mean, they even after World War II, you had the Nazi Bell experiments over in the United States, and those, even by today's standards, would be advanced technology. And that was how long ago? So how far have they come since then? And you have to imagine pretty far. I can only imagine. And that's just using logic.
Yeah.
So I have to think that they're pretty far along on things, and that there's pretty, I think, stark evidence that at a minimum, dark government agencies or parts of government agencies, or even the Pentagon or other foreign militaries, have this kind of technology out of the hands of the public. And, that whole X-Files thing, I think there's some truth to it.
I couldn't resist. Come on, man. And Joe, you just have no idea the kind of soundboard I've got lined up here now. I've got all sorts. But Jason...
Oh, I love it.
I don't know if you've got anything to wrap that story up, or you want to move on to the devil now, but...
yeah, that's pretty much the story. If you want to get on with the next story, I think you're going to like it.
Yeah, this is... I'm really intrigued. Go for it, man.
Well... if you go to pictures 12, 13,
14... back to work again. You make me work. I tell you that...
12,
keep me on my
13,
toes.
14.
12, 13, 14. Okay, and I'll bring up 12. I'll post that to TFR right now. And then...
These 3 photos are of Brenthall Church, which is on the moors. And you can see how exposed it is and how high it is.
Hang on now. There we go. Yes, there we go.
So, 12, 13, 14 pictures to give you an idea of the terrain and where it is and how precariously it's hung on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, that's some place. That's, wow, dude. Like Scott was talking earlier on about our history and things like that. I mean, Scott, what comes to your mind when you see something like that? It's like some dragons and Merlin and all that kind of jazz, right?
Exactly. I mean, the first thing I think when I see this is what I'm talking about, how, I'm jealous of the history that you guys have there. I mean, you've just got some super old buildings that literally look like something out of a game of D&D. I mean, it's quite, breathtaking, actually. I mean, absolutely beautiful terrain, and it's just it's awesome. It's awesome. So I mean, you could just tell by looking at a place like that there is a lot of history behind it, you know.
So talk to us. What's this all about, man?
Right. So the church is built in about the 12th century, which is similar to the Buckfastleigh Church. And the reason I mention that, do you remember that church and what went on there and how much was going on? About the devil trying to stop them building the church, and they built the 196 steps.
Yep.
Well, this story is the twinned one that the devil was said to own these two tours. He'd done a deal with God somehow. They had a battle, and he got these tours, as the old myth. That goes back for thousands of years. So that could even go pre our religion, and it could be other gods that fought over these tours. But it's built on a volcano. So it's a submarine volcano. It's one of the few on the moors. And unlike every other tour on the moors that's built out of granite, this is built out of volcanic rock, this one. So for the last 1,000 years or so, there's been some construction of sort around this tour. It was an Iron Age works at the bottom. They'd done excavations and they found Iron Age works at the bottom of the hill. So the church was built by a man called Robert Gifford in the 12th century. He was Lord of Lamerton, and it was later given to the monks of Tavistock in the 1580s. It's the fourth smallest church in England. It's only 37 feet long and 14 foot 6 inches wide. It can seat 40 people. And it's called St. Michael de Roop, and there's a reason it's dedicated to the Archangel St. Michael. And in 1889, 1890, it fell into a state of disrepair, so it was restored by the Duke of Bedford. And at the time, they found 40 skeletons under the church floorboards. Now, I can't find anything out any more about this at the moment.
Whoa. Hang on a minute. Right, whoa. You pull up the church floorboards and... Oh, no, nothing to see here. Just 40 corpses, Scott. You know
Yeah.
It's like the catacombs under Paris and things like that. Just bones. It's animal bones.
Yeah.
Move along.
So no one knows how they were there or why they're even there. They were just there. So they were built, well, or later on they were added to, but they're under the floor. So I'm going to look into that. So...
very tentatively, I hope.
Yeah. Well, I plan to go here soon because it's very close to me. And with the new rules walking about in the sunshine and the fresh air, I think that probably constitute being able to go outside.
Yes. So, nice idea.
You can see my thinking, Kev.
Yep.
So this church is basically, there's a famous old poem down here called The Merchant and the Devil. So this story ties into this tour. Now, the Merchant and the Devil poem, I'll go over it, the story. The Moors people had become more conscious of the devil and his tricks, and he'd been getting less and less victims lately. So to make up for this, the devil decides to sink a merchant ship out at sea. So where we're situated in Plymouth, where Plymouth Sound is, Kev, you know it's one of the biggest dockyards we've got, isn't it?
Yeah.
Britain's where we built all the warships.
I was down there for Navy Day one day.
Yeah.
One year, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
One of the best days out I've ever had.
So from Plymouth Sound, you can see Brentor. You can see it. It's the highest point of the moors. So you can see Brentor from the sea. So the devil decides to make a storm and sink this merchant ship. Now, on this merchant ship is a man called Hugh, as the story says. And the worse the storm gets, the more that Hugh prays under the decks, because he's a merchant. So the storm gets worse, and the devil makes the storm worse. He flies over the ship, it says, and he makes it even worse. And the ship's going closer and closer to the rocks. So Hugh comes up from the ship, goes down on his knees, and he promises to St. Michael, if he saves him, he will build a ship on the first point of land he sees. So this would tie into the fact that you can see the tour from Plymouth Sound. So he prays to St. Michael, and the storm starts to gentle. Now, the devil knows what's going on, so he makes an even bigger storm, and he uses all his power to try and sink this ship. But Hugh is so dedicated to St. Michael that St. Michael comes down, and the devil is no match for St. Michael. And the sea's calm, and the first point of land that Hugh sees is Brentor. So he decides that he's going to build his church on top of Brentor. So he decides to start getting the materials and the stuff he needs for the church, and he takes it up to the top of the hill. Now he wakens the next morning, and when he goes back, the devil has noticed what's happening on his tour, and he's put all of the stones and all the materials at the bottom of the hill again. So the next day, undeterred, Hugh puts them back up again, and there's a battle. The devil puts it back down in the morning, and there's a battle over the next couple of weeks. Hugh keeps taking it back up, and the devil keeps putting it back down at night, until St. Michael notices one day and decides he's going to give Hugh a hand. So the next night, the devil appears to take the stones down to the bottom of the hill, and he comes across St. Michael, and battle ensues, and the boulder that you can see picture in Discord, Kev, if you can post that next, the next bit of the story is that St. Michael picks up this boulder, throws it at the devil, and injures his heel. The devil reels off in agony and pain, and because of this, he's unable to interfere in the church, and Hugh gets to finish the church, and he dedicates it to St. Michael. But that boulder is the boulder that said that St. Michael threw at the devil, and it's still there now at the bottom of the tour, and it has been since.
That is, I'm just glad Officer Willie didn't have to handle a stone like that.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. Just ignore me and Scott smiling away and Joe messaging on Skype. We're just admiring the fact that it's almost like a new star of the Woo is born.
Fabulous, yeah.
Isn't it? It's like we're birthing a new star here. Very
absolutely.
proud as somebody that listens to KBS. This is what happens when you listen to enough KBS, folks. I'm just gonna sit back now.
So I'm going to mention Iron Age Man because, like I said before, Dartmoor is the part of the country where they found the most Iron Age relics and bodies and stuff. And every one of these tours has been around since it's been around longer than us, but they've used it as magical places, Iron Age Man. And like this place, at the bottom of the hill, they found an Iron Age walls that would have kept the place safe. So it's got a real big history. But there is a second version of the story of this. And the second version goes, the inhabitants were devil worshippers at the bottom of the hill. So we've got some devil worshippers at the bottom of the hill, but they decide to become Christian. The devil, obviously upset at this, decides to get revenge on them. So the people start to build their church at the bottom of the hill. Now they complete their task and they go to bed that night happy. And when they wake up the next morning, the church is gone. And the devil has moved the church to the top of the hill, and it rests precariously on the top, like you can see, as punishment. Now, the people got together and decided, undeterred, that they'd keep the church at the top of the hill. And they would walk up to the top of the hill and just take their punishment and leave it where it is. So they decide to get the Archbishop of Exeter to dedicate the church to St. Michael, who is the patron saint of hills and moorland, apparently. So they choose him. And on the day of the when they're doing the have the ceremony where they dedicate it to St. Michael, the bishop comes, but the devil gets wind of this, so he creates a terrible storm and basically trying to cause trouble all around devilly stuff. St. Michael notices and comes down from heaven, and a battle ensues. And St. Michael throws the devil off the top of the tor, and then throws the boulder on top of the devil and injures him mortally, which gives the people time to get the church blessed, and the devil can't interfere then. So there's two versions of this.
Let me pause you there then, right? Because I want to get the guy's take on this. Because we've got a kind of loose rule of thumb around here. Ancient stories, right? Passed down, local lore, things like that. We often think that they're based loosely on something that's happened in the past. And either way you look at either one of those stories, I'll get Joe first. We've not heard from him, then we'll hear Scott. But Joe, what do you make of this, man? Because deep woo, but this whole thing where stories been passed down, I don't think people just made this up, you know?
No. It's always grounded in some sort of truth. You know, people just don't concoct this stuff. Not especially the stuff that is so important that elders decide to pass it down, you know, to their sons and so on and so forth down the line. Oftentimes with unbelievable, uncanny accuracy. So, no, I fully believe that, you know, all of this lore is grounded in truth. No doubt.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, all of these legends and tales and stories and lore and mythos and all of this stuff, it's all grounded in something that occurred. And
yep. And some catastrophe took place and wiped it out. And that's like the only thing left are these you know, tales and these legends.
I find it interesting in this case how there's like two kind of separate stories, but they're all but both are bound in the battle. The battle seems to be the common thread in both of these versions of the story, where you had the devil in a battle with Michael, and Michael threw this stone at him, you know, and injured him somehow. And you know, there's the stone is supposedly, you know, there's the picture of it right there. I mean, that's supposedly the stone. And you got to wonder, I mean, is there any sort of it would be interesting for somebody to like sit on the stone and do an investigation. Like,
put your hands on the giant stones?
Yeah, put your hand on the stones. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you got to wonder if that thing has got some kind of paranormal activity around it, especially if this thing was supposedly involved in touching the devil himself and being handled by Michael. You know what I mean? I mean, this thing was thrown by an angel at the devil. You would think that that would probably have some kind of something on it, something carried with it that remains around it.
Ley lines, Jason? Have we got ley lines there, man?
Well, I'll just finish off this bit, what I think's going on, because we got the two stories. So we've got the Hugh the Merchant, but we know the actual church was built by a rich merchant who was a Lord of Lammerton. So that part's true. We know we've got ruins at the bottom of the church, which go back to like pagan times. So that's where the witchcrafty sort of side's coming from. And we know that the church is dedicated to St. Michael, and we know, like the other tour of where Buckfast Church is, these tours are considered to be owned by the devil back then. So the guy said, I believe that both of them are intertwining, and that there is truth in these stories. And I do plan to go here because it's not very far away. And making this story, someone on the Twitter arty messaged me because he's seen it. And he's an 80-year-old surfer in Australia. He's actually British and he used to live here. And he told me that one thing you should never do is go to this church on your own. So I messaged him back saying, what do you mean? And now I'm waiting in anticipation for this old guy to get back to me to tell me what.
Oh, how bizarre. And think of the synchronicity, right? We're going down under with the show tomorrow. You've got a down under dude from over there. Oh, listen, Scott, when there's like an 80-year-old surfer just emerges into your sphere of reality, one is must pay attention to what wise surfers have to say.
Yeah, exactly. If he just kind of effervesces out of nowhere and is like, "Don't go to the church by yourself," probably, and then leaves you hanging like that. And you're like, "Well, why? Why should I go to the church by myself?" You know. Yeah, that ought to be really good. I'm very interested in what you what you find down there, Jason.
Yeah, because also it's an Iron Age burial place, so there's woo going back here thousands of years, I believe. Which brings me on to the old subject of Dartmoor and what's going on there and the energy. And like Kev was on about ley lines, I actually planned to finish this series and then look into all that side of it. I was going to look if there's ley lines, if they match up to like Stonehenge, because we're all that part of that the world. But that led me on to the UFO video. But that led me on to the next story I'm going to do. And then all I'm going to tell you about it is it's to do with Aleister Crowley when he was younger and the Second World War again. And I couldn't locate him down to near me. And I think I found evidence that his family's from Plymouth. So that's what I'm working on next. So that's
going to be too weird. Yeah, this is going to be too weird. If you found a link in your home to Aleister Crowley and he's the boogeyman when you're growing up in Fort Augustus, dude. Any scary story, it was his name that was thrown out there. Yeah. I grew up, the first 10 years of my life, I thought the cat was still alive. That's how scary. Yeah. He was just Aleister Crowley. Whoa, scary man. Whoa, don't talk to him. Whoa, whoa. Know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh. But just to clear that up, I don't know if you had it properly. I said in my hometown, not necessarily in my home, but I can
no, hometown, still right, local area. Hey, listen, dude, if you've got Aleister Crowley in your home, that is a show we need to do.
Yeah.
Big
but
time.
I think what I've looked at so far, I can link his family to Plymouth. I can link him being a child in Torquay, which is another story, and I can link him being back in Torquay in the Second World War because he fled there to avoid the bombing. And then we go into the fact that he was being visited by MI5 and stuff like that. But that's the story.
He was a spook. You better believe he was a spook.
Yeah.
A high magician and spook.
Because didn't he go to Sicily and have his abbey? He built an abbey in Sicily as his place that he would do his magic. I don't know if you know about that.
I don't know about that, Jason. No, I don't.
So I'll add that bit as well, because then it goes on. He gets thrown out by Mussolini. As
you do, you know, just Mussolini kicking
Mussolini
you out.
Basically threw him out the country, and then they shut down his abbey. So he went to Torquay to build a new one, and then this is where all the story comes in.
You need to get Leo Zagami on this one, Scott.
So,
yeah, I was about to say, Jason needs to get in contact with Leo Zagami and Christopher Everard if he wants to get into some Aleister Crowley stuff, because those two guys have deep knowledge.
You know, 3 minutes to go, right? And here I was this afternoon thinking, dang, 3-hour show, solo. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And I managed to get the stuff from Just a Guy about the siren head, and I thought, yeah, we can go with that, no problem. Then Jason, I reached out to him. He said, yep. Scott appeared out of the ether, and Joe Joseph even manifested himself. And what a Freaky Friday it's been, gentlemen. I can't thank you all enough. Wow.
You know what this is? You're actually doing the show solo right now. We're just tulpas that you manifested because you were thinking about us.
Yeah, Anne's probably sitting on the couch going, but Kev, there's nobody else on the screen. Oh no, he's talking to himself. You knew I had to. And Joe, I thought since you always call me like the crazy, like kind of Irishman, I need to make sure I've got the right one here. I thought I'd get this one just for you, right? This is the crazy Irishman from Braveheart.
You're a madman. I come to the right place then.
Yes, indeed.
Sounds more Russian to me, like your pappy, Vlad.
Stephen the Irishman can be an ancestor of mine if he wants. I reluctantly admit I do have a lot of Irish blood in me, which makes Anne laugh profusely. It's a private joke. Don't worry about that. I'll explain after the show. But yeah, I'm embracing my Irishness, Joe. And of course, with me being
good man.
Doc Miller's favourite Irishman, with Clyde Lewis calling me Dave. I mean, I'm just Dave the Irishman. We're out of here, folks. Paranormal portal awaits you. Do you dare step through? There we go. Now then, all that remains to be done is to thank everyone for turning up today. And chat room was on fire.